Hi everybody, we're back again. It's Juggz, it's Peachy here. I'm joined by Louise. Hi Louise. Rob, how are you doing? You looking sexy.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. Peachy Peach with a peachy bum.
It's not even my birthday.
Happy birthday to you.
At the time of recording, it was my birthday. I'm only 24. This is what smelting as a 6-year-old does to you.
The minds.
Amazingly though, Peach, you've got a really exciting, but like we've all got a very exciting guest.
So I was talking to someone online a little while back, and
you know what your parents said about that?
Yeah, well, I know.
Have you told Mrs. Peach?
I got blocked. I wasn't allowed. And I was given a couple of dates if someone come on the show, and I was like, I'm going to do it on my birthday. We are joined by the mighty Joe Mulla. If you don't know who this guy is,
Mighty. I like
Mighty
Joe McCullough. Is a great
Is there a way, can we give enough of an introduction to him, Peach? Like, creator of...
the creator of Frostgrave.
What?
The creator of Stargrave. Of the Silver Bayonet.
What?
Of Rangers of Shadowdeep, because that's such a long name, I always forget to say it. And the latest book, Death Ship 1.
I don't
and I'm
have
sure
a copy.
there's many more, Joe, and I can't remember. But you've done lots. You've done lots for gaming.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thanks for
you
being
joining
here.
us.
That's,
Fun to come up.
That's an indomitable amount of like accolades.
Yeah,
It
that's
is.
silly.
Like,
Like,
And
now
they're
that
all
I've
really
heard,
good
I'm a
rule
bit
systems
intimidated.
as well. They're so
I was
well
hoping you'd
done.
say indefatigable. Because
Okay.
That just sounds so good when
I
British
don't know what
people
that
say
means.
it.
Okay.
I know it's a ship from Hornblower.
Exactly.
That's
it's a ship
it.
from Hornblower.
Indefatigable?
You're the
Indefatigable.
which is better than sharp.
Cannot be fatigued.
Oh, infatigable.
Did you know, right?
Sure.
I only knew that from reading the rules of Silver Bayonet. I was like,
right.
what does that actually mean? So I literally decided to
I probably
type
only
up.
know it from Hornblower.
Yeah,
to be fair.
yeah.
I
Just
learned
cannot
so
be
many
fatigued.
words from Warhammer Community like every day.
Or Rob.
Yeah.
Or
Or
Rob. Rob has lots of big words.
Well, I think Joe's going to maybe rival me, hopefully, which is fun. I'm super excited to have you here.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Peach, thanks for organising it.
Thank you for
it's-
coming
it's
on
been
our
on my.
Juggz.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you for coming on our Juggz.
Yeah, appreciate that a lot. We'll get you a t-shirt.
Oh, we should.
We should.
Oh, we should.
We should. How does it feel do you do many interviews? Is this something you do a lot?
I've done some. I've not done many like in person.
Oh, really?
Usually it's over Zoom or whatever. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
very different to be actually looking at people and.
But you're like used to being behind a microphone, if I'm correct. We're getting the deep lore out.
Yeah. So a long time
The
ago,
deep
I
lore.
was an announcer for youth baseball in America.
That's
So,
amazing.
That's so cool.
number 34, the shortstop, Louise Sudgins.
Oh my God, I love it.
You are short. That is correct.
It is
I've
correct.
now
I like how you rolled in a short joke in the announcement as well. That was excellent.
It's
Well
either
done.
She's
short
taller
or
than I am.
Scottish or... Really? No, I'm not.
It's pretty close.
I
if
doubt it.
not.
I doubt it.
Yeah, do you, how does it feel having the accolades read back at you?
It feels like, man, I'm really tired. I've been doing this a long time.
This is a shocker for me because I had no idea how long you've been doing this, and I'm ashamed of myself for not knowing.
What do you mean? How long you've been doing
So
what?
Frostgrave is like 10 years.
Frostgrave
Yeah.
will be 10 years next July.
Yeah.
10 years doesn't feel like that long ago.
Just to
though,
me, when you're my age, it's a long time.
When you, go on, after you.
I guess the thing is, if you write every day, which basically I do,
Yeah.
and you do that for 10 years, you end up with a lot of stuff.
That's a lot, yeah.
So-
You say that, but I painted every day for 10 years, but I don't feel like I should have armies painted by now. I just don't.
Yeah.
I'm the slowest
do
painter.
you mind if I just jump in with
Yeah.
just a PSA? If you are one of the
Stop.
companies that just does send Louise more boxes of minis every week,
Thank you.
Stop.
Thank you.
Because
More
she looks at me and goes, I will paint that. And I go, when will you paint that? And then, like, especially an entire 10 models.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
going to take forever. And then I just have to keep finding more and more
In 15
storage
years,
space.
when I do it, they'll be like, thank you, young woman. Thank you.
We've been out of business for 10 years, but thank you.
You could have helped us all
Exactly. You
that
could have
time
saved
ago.
us.
Oh, it's so mean.
How long have you been, you started creating rules when?
10 years ago. So I guess, yeah. So Frostgrave will be 10 next year, and I guess I wrote it a year or so before it came out.
So that was your
So-
first rule system?
More or less. I played
Insane.
around with things.
Wow.
But yeah, that was.
Have you always been into like miniature gaming RPGs?
Yeah,
stuff like that?
what's the backstory?
Oh, yeah,
can we
yeah,
get, can we
let's
get the
go.
backstory?
Deep lore.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I want
get
the
my
deep lore.
coffee ready. Give us the
Okay.
deep lore.
So I still remember it.
It was late night in a Waffle House in South Carolina.
No, my mom worked in a bookstore when I was young, and I guess I was about 9. And we had to go pick her up one day, and we were early, so it was like, oh, go look around the bookstore. But I wasn't really into reading. But there was a copy of Dragon magazine.
Dragon
the
magazine.
Dragon.
So which is like the
you not
magazine
get
of Dungeons and Dragons.
No.
Back in the day. It's like the White Dwarf of Dungeons and
Yeah,
Dragons.
yeah. It's
Oh.
very
Or at least
good.
it was back in the day. And like, there was like a picture of like, it's like a walrus man and a little fairy or something.
Love.
And I just, you know, that moment where you pick something up and you're like, I don't understand any of this, but I know it's for me.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Like, I assume a lot of kids like here are like that about White Dwarf. Like, I don't know
got
what this
into
is, but
anime
it's
way
got
too
guys in
young.
power armor. I'm in.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So I bought that and I took it home and I read it from cover to cover, understanding absolutely none of it. And then I bought a set of Dungeons and Dragons and understood none of it. And then this is where the story gets amazing because my father, who's a religious teacher, and you got to remember at this time, like Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
like
the
it was the work of the
Satanic
devil.
Panic.
So this was the Satanic
Yeah,
Panic.
it was literally like
But-
probably 80s.
And you're in the
height.
South, right?
And I am in the South.
You're in the real belt.
You're a devil worshipping boy of Satan.
Allegedly.
Allegedly a devil worshiping.
Only one of my friends was, roommates with some of the guys who committed D&D murders. But,
Wow.
Wait, D&D murders?
yeah, there's so part of the whole Satanic Panic and other things is
Yeah?
there were a series of murders in the U.S. that in various ways were linked to Dungeons and Dragons. Almost none of them are legitimate links.
Was it
Yeah.
just
But
literally like the
it was-
kids played Dungeons and
exactly.
Dragons?
We're going to ignore
literally?
that they're also like cocaine using, abused,
Yeah.
like horrible, all kinds of things, and focus on the fact that
on the fact that they
played
like
this
to
game.
roll dice and play
Yeah.
imaginary
Yeah.
games. Okay, anyway.
But anyway, to get back to the story, my
Yeah.
father, who was a big Tolkien fan, saw that I was like really trying to get into this. So he went out and he bought the Middle Earth role-playing game at
Nice.
the time.
Keeping
and
it
he
safe,
learned how
keeping
to
it
play
safe.
it and like became my first game master.
Yeah.
And that kind of launched me into the world of gaming. Because in the US in the 80s, gaming meant role-playing. And there was some war gaming, but you had to search harder.
That's
So
incredibly.
is Tolkien like Christian friendly? Was
Tolkien's
that...
Catholic, like hardcore Catholic.
Wow.
Oh.
So like
Louise,
what
the white Swedish elves. Like a very famous German was quite excited about the first Tolkien
name
book.
3 famous Germans. Rob.
Famous German.
A famous painter of sorts.
sure we've covered this
anyway,
before.
but what's like how is that okay, but Dungeons and Dragons wasn't?
Well, I mean,
What's the different dragon? Like where do we
Witches.
Is it witches?
Probably, I don't
because
know.
they were bad guys.
I think it's more
Tolkien.
that just like, I guess D&D was a game. So it was something that you actively pursued, whereas a book, probably nobody like even
nobody
knew about
thought about
Tolkien
it
and
too
just didn't
much,
care.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think that's really
That is
like not brave
interesting.
of you. Like it's just pretty inspiring, right? That your
Yeah,
dad like
it is.
like because you could have had a really difficult relationship on that point.
Yeah.
That's pretty
that's
amazing.
pretty cool of him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
to be
cool.
So, I
like-
mean, I'm kind of
Yeah.
a second generation nerd, I guess. But like,
That's lovely.
I'm first
I was-
generation.
So do you say he was a priest or a vicar?
he's technically a director of religious education, so he's Catholic.
okay,
so
yeah.
obviously he's not going to be ordained.
Yeah.
But so he basically helped. Well, he's retired now, but he helped people that wanted to become
Yeah.
Catholic become Catholic.
Cool.
I had
So-
a.
And people that wanted to become elves become elves.
that would be me.
I've got a great
Stretch the
story of
ears.
my days in retail.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was one week we had
Love Peachy
some lady
stories.
come in. She was shouting about witches and warlocks and how
What?
it's
What?
heretical.
Like, what do you mean? Like in a bad way?
In a bad way. It was like, you know,
'cause I
very-
go
You
into
met my
shops
mother.
and I shout. I'm about to say that's just me.
She's a very nice lady, but she's very ranty.
It wasn't my mother then. Okay.
But yeah, we had a week where this lady come in. She was shouting about like, you know, it's heretics, it's
That's kind of cool, though.
Satanism and this and the other. And at the time, I was only a key. What are they called? Key worker, key staff member.
I know what you mean.
Key
Like a-
timer.
yeah.
So I was like, oh. And then a couple of weeks, it was probably a couple of weeks later, a month or so later, I was on the till, I was on my own. And the vicar from Derby Cathedral, which is not that far away, it's like literally like a 2-minute walk away, comes in. I'm
This
like,
sounds like a setup for a
oh
joke.
no. Oh no. And he walks all the way down the aisle, grabs a book, comes all the way back, slaps Demon Hunters
Oh my
on
god,
the desk.
that's
And I'm
so
like,
badass.
one of the
Hi,
coolest
Kenobi
books
was like,
still.
yeah, just getting ready to get my book to smite some witches and all that. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is amazing. This is like the opposite of what I was expecting it to go down.
If I was like a vicar or something, I'd hardcore play up into it, and I'd be like, yeah, this is my like Grey Knight army.
I think he went to work with the Vatican after a while, and like,
God, good for him.
I'm making that bit up. That's not true.
So how did it go from
Exorcist.
playing like Dungeons and Dragons with your dad to becoming a rules writer? Is it just a continuous?
No, not
Deepening?
at all, actually.
Oh, wow.
So I mean, I kind of got more and more into gaming in the US. And when I ended up going to university, I found like my tribe. This was literally this gaming store in a basement, like all the classic tropes of gaming store in basement, but absolutely loved it. So I spent my 4 years education like in this basement and skipping classes and such. But what I really was trying to do is I thought I wanted to be a writer, like of fantasy stories. And so I did a lot of work to become a writer. And that's how I kind of end up over here. This part of the story makes no sense. But so I graduated university. I went to live in Washington, D.C. I continued to try to write while I had jobs. And but I was in a really bad place mentally by age 27. And I thought, I got to change something. I'm not happy. So I'm gonna do something really different. I'm gonna change my perspective. I'm gonna go back to university for writing,
Oh wow.
but I'm gonna do it abroad so that I just see things very
It's
differently.
like a clean slate almost.
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Kind of, yeah. I just, you can't change your perspective unless you change where you stand.
Yeah.
That's what Mark Twain said, right? Like,
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably sounds
Well,
smart.
not that exact
That sounds
sentence.
like it sounds like
Get
something
this from? You're just full of
Okay.
knowledge. Full of
I'm
knowledge.
not. I'm not.
It's so smart.
So I'd been to Britain once before, like backpacking around, and I'd been right to the border of Wales, right? But somehow I got in my head like, I'm going to Wales, right?
To Wales.
Well, because I thought like, I'm going to write fantasy. I'm going to go somewhere that's going to inspire me to write fantasy.
Tolkien culture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm going to go where, the old standing stones are and stuff. So I applied to two universities. I'll probably mangle this, but Aberystwyth.
Aberystwyth. Yeah, it's
Better
it's,
than what
there's
I
a lot
can
of
do.
thifts and withs.
I didn't even know what it was. So
Anyway, as far as I can remember, they never actually wrote back to me.
Oh.
And the University of Bangor in North Wales.
Oh yeah.
And they said, sure, we'll take you.
Yay.
And so I went. And that was an eye-opener. I'd
Yeah?
never kind of been in a place like that before.
What do you mean?
I mean, a lot of things, really. First off, like scale, as we were kind of talking before we came on, US, huge. And like my university, huge.
Yeah.
And I've only ever lived in big cities.
Like we were talking about like driving to get to the other side of a car park.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. For us Brits, it's like madness.
Yeah.
Right.
That like you cannot go places in America without driving. Yeah.
So the entire city of Bangor is like smaller than my university was
Wild.
in
That's
the US.
mental.
Yeah.
And also like I'd never been that far north. So like I'm there in the winter
I
and like,
suppose it is north.
Yeah.
the sun comes up at like 10 a.m. and it goes down at like 3 a.m. And I'm living this college lifestyle, so I'm not going to bed until like noon anyway. So like I just never see the sun. And like it's always raining and the houses are all made of slate.
Yeah.
So just like the sky's gray and the houses are gray. And so in some ways, it's like if I came here to improve my mood, this was a really terrible,
Yeah, literally.
terrible call.
Yeah.
But luckily I met the woman of my dreams there. And,
Oh,
and
no way.
Oh, that's
so
delightful.
I didn't actually finish the course.
Fair enough,
Totally
that
lost
happens.
interest in that.
Yeah.
But it was also inspiring. It is an incredible, like, if you're just there for the scenery and the feel.
I mean,
Yeah.
North
Of
Wales is a good place to go because you got it's the is it the Iron Curtain? No, not the Iron Curtain.
The Iron
That's-
Ring.
Iron Ring. That's
Yeah,
it. Thank
so
you.
you've got all the castles.
Because you got all the castles. They're within like what 30 miles
Yeah.
of each other.
Yeah.
And you've just got, like, they've got so much Neolithic stuff that
Yeah.
they don't even bother
Oh.
talking about it. So it's like standing stone, ring a circle.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I went on like a Tolkien hike not recently, must have been like 5-6 years ago or something, where I went on like a big long walk around all of the Neolithic sites in
Okay.
England, which Tolkien was inspired to like do the Land of the Dead and stuff like that, and like the
Oh.
white horses and
Yeah.
chalk on, and it was amazing. It was one of the best things I've ever done, and it was it was just so cool because you could see all the inspiration for his writing in the things.
Yeah.
And then you got to pretend you were a hobbit on a hike and eat lamprey bread, which was also fun. I'll have to find it for you because it's just such a good thing to do.
Yeah.
I think Charlie would like it.
Well,
But it was like 8 miles, 10 miles walking a day though. So.
That's fine. I can do that.
Yeah, you could do it.
That's just a small trip.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
Rob.
thank you.
I'd love to do. Rob doesn't like walking.
That's not true. I like.
You can be on a little motorcycle.
I like doing walks. That's not the case.
What kind of walk do you like doing?
Wands to places.
pub.
That's the most
He wants to go to the
Gandalf
Eagle
thing.
and Child and just stop there. Like,
Robert often discusses this, and it's a good topic where
Ignore me for a minute. Carry on.
That's fine. We found ourselves, we fell into the jobs that we do.
yeah.
Like, you know, I never set out to be a presenter and paint toy soldiers on YouTube. And was that like, did you think where you'd be now, like writing books, like war games and stuff like that? It was just like one of those things you fell into. It was never like,
So like,
this is what I'm going to do.
So
No one
after
ever
I got
plans
married,
it.
like neither me or my wife, she finished university, and we're like, okay, what do we do now? And so we like, whoever first gets a job, that's where we'll go.
Yeah.
And because I'm on the show, so I did actually apply to work at a games workshop in Chester,
Everyone
hard.
does. Everyone does.
and
We've all
apparently
been there.
failed the interview just absolutely.
How did you
miserably.
fail the interview?
Well, I don't know, because like it wasn't even an interview. It was like there were like 12 people. They brought 12 people into this room together. And
Oh, the old
gave us
classic-
like a series of tasks.
Yeah.
And I
yeah.
think two things. Like I probably wasn't assertive enough.
Yeah.
I think they were looking for
Yeah.
assertive people at that time.
Fair.
But also like even then, I'm so bad. I'm really bad at like a corporate environment or following the rules.
You're
and
talking
things like
to the
that.
right people.
So they're like, one of the things you had to do was like talk about the last game you played, and I'm like, I was playing like 40K, but then we mixed in some like fantasy creatures, and we just made up a bunch of rules, and I don't think that
That
really
sounds like, that's
went
amazing.
down.
I
with
didn't
them,
understand
you know?
what the term crossing the streams meant.
Right.
So when I was working in Forge World or something, I was working on one of the Middle Earth books, and I was like, cool, I'll do some conversions with my wood elves, and I'll use some of these
Can't do
bits. Yeah,
can't do that.
There was like these stones that just came out for an Age of Sigmar kit that looked like really good, and I was like, oh, that'll look great. And they're like, oh, you're crossing the streams, and I'm like, no, the stream's going to be on that base. Like, there's no streams here, and they're like, they mean like you can't do that. Really?
You know what's really
and
weird
I
about
hated
that?
one.
There was a time when I was in retail
Yeah.
where they tried to push more sales for Lord of the Rings. That we had a big managers meeting, and they're
Yeah.
like, you guys aren't selling enough Lord of the Rings. It's quite clear. People can use them for whatever they want to. We're like, you never said this, because they have to be used for Lord of the Rings. It's a Lord of the Rings thing. It's the license. Like, no. And they put up on the screen, like, you can use mummics in Warhammer. And I was like, can we? And there was like, I still remember on the PowerPoint, there was like a unit of Gandalf the Greys
Oh my
for Warhammer. It's like, why is this not happening in the stores, guys? It was like as if we were the idiots that didn't
Just-
think this through.
you
Yeah, that's your
idiots.
fault.
Obviously, this is it's just like Space Marines, but Gandalf's head on
it's
it.
just-
Like,
it was wild, and we all came out of the management.
so
We're just like,
confusing.
did anyone? Was this in a memo?
Just Empire Swordsman out of Boromir's.
Was that
the same Boromir model
Same pose.
40 times.
I wish you still had that. That would be
It
hilarious.
was mental. I mean, I got what they were trying to do was like, you know, you can sell anything to anyone. That was, I think, the point
Yeah,
they get
literally.
to. But then there was a big turnaround like a year later. Like, why are you selling like regiments of Gandalfs to people that play Warhammer? I was like, because you told us to.
It sounds quite frenetic.
Phonetic.
Frenetic.
That actually reminds me of one of the geeky things I did in Wales. So I went to, and I can't remember the name of it because it's Welsh, but it was a burial mound,
Ooh.
you know, and I got there and like, again, it's just in a field and nobody cares. And, you know, so the first thing I did was like, all right, I'm taking these pebbles. And for the next 10 years, like every barrel white figure I did got one of those. little
Nice.
Oh,
I
that's
wanted
great.
to take
Nice.
I took some little bits of what's it called, flint, because
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I want to get into napping at some point, and I think that'd be really. That's when you.
Napping?
Yeah,
When you-
is it
Well,
knapping?
like for-
Yeah.
No, it's
just
when you
napping.
make
Just-
it is.
Having a
napping,
daytime nap.
Yeah. I was
already
like,
into
you're really into napping
I'm
already.
very
You
into
love
napping.
napping.
She wants to break stones.
I want to break
essentially.
stones, but yeah, I thought it would be really cool if I used ones from like, and I always did the path path up to it, not the place itself.
Yeah, I wasn't like ripping hunks out of the
Yeah, me
fairy
too.
mound,
Just like cool bit of skull.
big stone coming with me.
But yeah, I thought it would be really cool to make a series of like little arrowheads out of things I've taken from like
smart.
Neolithic burial sites. I thought that would be neat.
Well, I was a bit naughty, and I may or may not have taken loads of slate from my local lake when I went to my brother's house, and I've got a big bag of slate, and they get used so much in my photography when I do like my unit.
slate's great.
I'd just like to publicly state I've never stolen from a burial site, a Neolithic site. If the Heritage Foundation are listening to me, or whatever you are,
for the free
I've done nothing wrong.
Thank you. The big eye opener for me. I used to live in Aberdeen, which is funny because it's called the Grey City because it's very much like what you said. Everything's made of granite and it's always raining. But I used to live next to a beach. And there was loads of slate and sand. And then I came to England. I was like, I have to pay for basing material.
Where's the sand?
Like, I wish I just like picked like a huge bit of sand and just took it with me. Because got to pay premium for that mixed basing materials now.
No, you have £5. £5.
My jar of like grit from the Menai Strait like just ran out last year. And I'm like, that's it. We're going back to Wales. Gonna get another jar
of dirt. Tell us about your jar of dirt, Rob.
I don't have one.
Tell us about
Again,
your
I'm outnumbered. YouTube
They were
commenters.
fine stones.
Put some F's in the chat for Rob, please.
X in the chat for Rob and his lack of Neolithic burial stealings.
Yes. So how did you end up not getting the job and then moving?
Oh, right.
There
was a story in here.
Don't worry, I'm on it.
So where I did end up getting a job was with Osprey Publishing. And this actually strangely relates back to Lord of the Rings too. Because that Middle-earth role-playing, a lot of it was illustrated by Angus McBride, who, like, if you don't know, is just absolute legend of an artist.
Yeah.
Either you know him for his Lord of the Rings stuff or you know him for illustrating Osprey books.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I know that. I'm going to go work there. So I got a job in the production department, which I was incredibly ill-suited to.
What do you mean?
So, like, production is really detailed work.
Yeah.
So, like, you're moving things millimeters and you're making indexes fit. And, like, I just don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like to think big and quit paying attention.
Was this for like the historical sort of books and stuff like that?
So because there were no games at that time. So like my first job was dealing with reprints. So they'd be like, we're going to reprint all these books, but we need to make these changes. So like Osprey books go through a bunch of different cover things because they're all series. So it's like, we got to update these covers to look like the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And so like, there is an Osprey book out there, German Forifications, because I misspelled it slightly.
Forifications.
There's several goblin boxes in the world that I misspelt separately. Like the paint sold separately, say separately. So I feel
Oh, wow.
So luckily, Osprey at the time was really small. It was like 22 people or something. And although it was owned by investment people, they just didn't pay much attention. And so like they just allowed me over the next 15 years to just jump around this company. And there was a joke for a while that I'd worked in every department.
Okay.
And it's not true because I never worked in finance because being not a detail person, they wouldn't let me anywhere near that. But I went to marketing for a while and I did editorial for a while and then went back to marketing. And then they gave me my own series to edit. And so I was all over the place. But and it was amazing because that's what I like is I get bored with things really quick.
So, because I was only aware of Osprey for so long because of the military books.
Yeah.
Whenever you were like doing any kind of like historical research, Osprey was like the go-to.
I don't think I'm aware of them now.
I'm not aware of Osprey.
It's a vast
I'm
range.
sorry.
If you're not a historical player, that's
I'm
understandable.
not. So there you go. Sorry, historical players.
The best way to describe it is like it's a really sort of like useful slither of a how-to guide. So and it's very particular to certain things. So if I wanted to know like
what you mean.
They're
about
historical
the British,
guides.
the British infantry in the Peninsular War. There's a book about the British infantry in the Peninsular War, and it might say part 1 because there's 2 books because there's so much about it.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah. I
but
know
the very
these.
particular might be like the Zulus of the African colonial plains, or like it's every possible historical regiment, unit, army, battle, something
that's fun.
is covered. And I've even got a book about British tactics in the Napoleonic Wars.
Can I ask a question? And I mean this like sincerely. What would you say that they are very accurate, or like there's like, because a lot with sometimes with historical works there is a bit of like liberal interpretation to like flesh that out.
It depends.
Oh, okay.
So obviously the the farther back in history you go, the harder it gets to necessarily say. And I remember
I'm looking at Sumerians already. I'm like, how far back does this go?
it goes all the way back.
It does.
So I mean that series Men at Arms has over 500 volumes.
It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I mean one of the things that they said about Angus McBride was he was great at filling in the details that no one could know because a lot of the fabric and stuff isn't going to survive, obviously. So, but I mean, as you get closer, as you get into the World War II, it's very accurate.
Yeah, I think that's super. Obviously, that's super okay. I was just wondering, how, because that feels like at a certain point you've got to do some pretty intense research.
You do, and that's really what writing an Osprey book of that style was about. And anybody could write one, they said, but can they do the
research.
Artist notes essentially? Because you got to be telling what kind of buttons they're wearing, and
is it all the credits at the end as well, like where they've got the research from and stuff. But you have like color plates. These are my favorite things. So only painters and stuff like that want to know about like color schemes and stuff. You got like colored plates in the book, but they're all like A1, A2, A3. So on like the A plate, there'll be like 2 figures or 3 figures. All got numbers at the back of the book. It then describes what they're wearing, what kind of like garb it might be, and it just describes the uniform and stuff. So I think I'd probably say they're probably the most accurate of
and I mean
research out there.
Like,
most people rely on them.
I'm gonna get some now. I found the ancient Assyrian ones, and that makes me very happy.
Ooh, you're a fan of ancient Assyrian?
I like very old stuff. I like.
I do.
It's the hats.
It's the hats.
It's the hats.
Yeah.
I really like the really, really old stuff. I'm a big fan of like ancient Egypt, Sumerian, Assyrian. It's all my jam.
In my latest video I've just been recording for Warlord. I'm a big fan of Carthaginians and Macedonians.
Okay.
I always wanted to like collect armies of them. I used Rome Total War 1 for my historical accuracies when that came out. It's a terrible idea because when I got the Osprey book, I was like, they're different colours. Why are they so different? Because don't use computer games for historical accuracy.
If I can just super sidebar us, which is very rare for me. Sidebar to the sidebar. Have you heard the rumor? It's a very public rumor. But have you heard the rumor that apparently the next Total War game is going to be Star Wars Total War?
You said that last time.
Did I say that last time?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. That's pretty exciting. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I'm not a video game player.
Oh,
I am a Star Wars.
You are a Star Wars fan.
I am a Star Wars fan, but
maybe
don't
you
play
can
video
start.
games. So,
Total War's really good fun.
I used to play video games, and then they added like a third dimension. And I couldn't do it
anymore.
Oh,
what? Literally.
As long as you run across the screen and jump, I can do it. Yeah.
Castlevania.
I started with to be honest, I think of video games as things you stand up playing in an arcade. But
wow.
I am that old.
Yes.
Well, you should try Animal Crossing. It's great.
It already feels like your entire life
Right.
story is literally just. Did you sell the rights to your story to Netflix for Stranger Things? Because it's just the Stranger Things series.
Yeah, I mean, it is like those kids are like me. I was one of those kids. Well, except for the whole actually fighting evil thing. But
Yeah.
in the
Did
basement
you get like
rolling
weird
D20s.
visions of evil beings in the upside down?
Well, it's hard to remember what was real.
That's what Frostgrave was, right?
Yeah,
That was just you
exactly.
channeling.
So Frostgrave. So like you're working at Osprey, you're doing every job. You're doing every job that's possible,
Yeah.
and then you
How do I
start
get
writing
to
at home. You like.
So throughout all this, I've still been up until I went to Wales. I tried to be a writer, and then something crashed and burned while I was in Wales, and I gave up kind of writing fiction. But I still wanted to be a writer, so I got to Osprey, and I was always kind of looking for ways to write. So I ended up writing a book about zombies for them.
Nice.
And
Cool.
that actually did all right, and I was scared that I was going to become forever
What
labeled
was the
as
book
the
called?
zombie god. Zombies, A Hunter's Guide. It's supposed to be like an
I
Osprey
think I've
book
got
about.
that.
Oh, Peachy.
I might have that.
Nice.
Well, anyway, if you do, that's by me.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, that's so cool.
That's insane.
That's so funny.
But I guess it comes down to at that time, games was becoming a thing at
Yeah.
Osprey. They published Bolt Action with Warlord and had done a few other things. And my friend and coworker Phil was kind of in charge of all that, and we were the only two war gamers at the company at the time. So people were always coming and talking to us
That's
about
wild.
that sort of thing, and we were always bouncing ideas off each other. And one day I was just complaining to him, basically saying like, "Oh, I can't find the perfect war game. Nothing does everything I want, And I think he was just like so tired of listening to me whine. He just went, "Look, you go away and write it, and if it's any good, I'll publish it." And so I was like,
That's
"I'm gonna do
exciting.
it." And what's amazing is that a couple of weeks after that, my wife and I went on a holiday to the Lake District. And this is
Nice.
the last time in my life, so this is 10 years ago, that I didn't have the internet. Like we were in this just isolated valley where you just got no reception to anything. And I literally just started writing Frostgrave with the introduction and wrote straight through during this holiday and went back to Phil and went, here it is. And it was supposed to be part of the series that like Lion Rampant is, and he went, you know what? Actually, I think we can make something bigger of this.
So, where did the like world of Frostgrave come from? Like, was that something you had in your mind for a while, or like how did that come around?
When I first started, I didn't have a world. I just thought these are the kind of mechanic thing. I knew I wanted to do wizards.
Yes,
because like wizards have always been kind of this sidelight in war games up to this point. I want something wizardy. And then I was like, well, I got to have a reason for these wizards to actually fight.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, there's lots of magical treasure. Well, where's lots of magical treasure? A ruined city that used to be magical. And then I think I wanted some ways to make it even more dead than dead. You know, like, what's more dead than dead? Frozen and dead.
It cannot move. Cryo dead.
And a few years previous to that, so my wife's really into traveling. And I'm always trying to impress my wife. So I was like, I'm going to impress my wife this year at Christmas, and I'm going to give her this cool gift. I'm just going to pick a random place, and we're going to go, right? And
that's fun.
I was just looking online, and I saw this picture of Tallinn, the capital of Estonia. Never heard of this city before. Barely knew where Estonia was, right? I'm like, that's it. We're going for Valentine's Day. I booked it. You know, I gave it to her at Christmas, not realizing how far north Tallinn is, and that the average temperature was -13 for the entire trip.
Oh, that's
and there was
chilly.
snow everywhere. It turned out to be amazing.
That's kind of cool. Yeah.
Like, there are no tourists there in February in Tallinn, but it is this ruined kind of medieval city, and it was all covered in snow.
That sounds amazing.
And it was just empty because you couldn't go outside for more than 30 minutes before you're like, let's find a cafe. So I think that idea kind of came with the rules I wanted.
There you go, Frostgrave fans.
Exactly.
If you're looking for the Frostgrave experience.
Then go play Frostgrave in Tallinn?
Well, I have actually. So,
you have?
There you go. There you go.
This is probably the most improbable thing that's ever happened to me as a wargame writer. So one of the fans of Frostgrave is a guy named Terrace, who runs a company called Geek Nation Tours that runs tours to geeky things. So like Adepticon, he does an Adepticon tour and a Gen Con tour. And he said, let's do a Frostgrave tour. We'll all fly out to Tallinn and we'll just kind of tour during the day and play Frostgrave all night. And I'm like, no one's going to want to do that.
But did they?
Yes, they did.
Oh my God.
Me and 12 other people flew out to Tallinn, and that's exactly what it did. And
You almost made a party of wizards, pretty much, didn't you?
it was
Did they
such a
dress
good
up?
experience.
Did they dress up?
They did not dress up.
I would be furious.
Yeah.
I would insist that the whole event was like a LARPing event as well. Like, I would get too into that, I fear.
But we did-
Okay, you're reducing the numbers even further. Yeah, we got 12, okay? Like, that's pretty good.
And me dressed as a wizard.
The best part was when we went to this medieval castle and they were giving us a tour and they took us down into this dungeon. The guy's like, now I'm going to show you how to mix gunpowder. And like literally the guy, he's like, do we have a volunteer? I'm like, And he's like, all right, take saltpeter now, mix it up. And like I could see the tour guy, Terrace's face was kind of getting white because he clearly had no idea this was going to happen. And he's like, all right, let's take it out and load it in the cannon now. And I'm like, what is going on?
That sounds awesome.
That was
amazing.
amazing.
I would go. I would go on
The
that.
thing I like about Frostgrave as well is it's like you've got a location, you've got a bit of history, but it's so sort of like built in such a way that you can add to it. There's no like hard written.
There's no map.
Yes.
And there never will be a map.
No map.
No, and to the point where I eventually put in the book that like it can't be mapped. That like because it was this magical city, like people just kept knocking buildings down and like magicking new ones up, so they just didn't bother to map it.
Interesting.
People do love maps, though.
People do love maps, but
You can make your own, Rob.
that's the
And
thing.
then burn it, and then make another one, and then burn it.
The problem with maps is they are inherently limiting.
Yes, that's true.
As soon as you put it on the map, you can't move it. So
yeah.
Interesting.
I think that's an interesting question because, like, I've read through the rules of Frostgrave now. So as I understand it, like, it borders that kind of line between like really hard and fast rules because there are some, and then just like you can be loosey goosey and do what you like, and that feels like constantly in games to be the lever or like maybe the borders that a game is trying to like battle between. Like, how much freedom do you want to give people, and then how much do you want to like give them guide rails? Because I quite like guide rails in games. Like chess, like there's no creativity in chess, like unless you're doing the bomb cloud maneuver. But like there's
the who?
It's the type of move you can do. Shout out to all my chess fans.
I only recently discovered the move called castling.
Okay.
Yeah, so I never knew that was a thing.
I recently realized that the rook maybe meant a bird and it flies across the table.
Okay. All right, we're going to move on from this, I think. I think we're going to just slide past this.
Okay,
Come back to chess later.
That's fair.
But how have you found, like, was that intentional? Was it a learned process? Like, did you have goals with that or something you developed?
The play style.
I think I'm just a terrible person at following rules.
Okay.
Which is a weird thing to say as someone who writes rules for a living, but I'm terrible at following them, even my own rules.
Yeah.
Because I get really frustrated anytime a rule gets in the way of fun.
Okay.
It's like,
Give us an example of a rule getting in the way of fun. Because I don't play a lot of games, so like...
Okay.
Yeah. So... put you on the spot there.
Yeah, exactly.
We could give you a minute.
All right, so like, say you've got your wizard on top of a tower,
Love it.
and he
That's
wants
so
to
fun.
jump down to this like other little tower, but there's no specific rules for jumping in that way. Well, who cares? Just do it, and like.
Yeah. He's a freaking wizard.
Exactly.
Of course he can jump
Or just
down.
roll a
Yeah.
die, and if it's high, he makes it, and if he doesn't, he
Just-
plummets to his death.
I call
Like,
it 4-ups if you want to do something. Like if you're playing with a kid and they really want to do something, you just roll a dice and a 4-up, you do it.
Well, Joe's got a great mechanic called like target number. So you just roll a dice and you have to like, because you've got like certain stats, and stuff like that. So that's one of the things like, if
I mean,
it's sort
because
of-
that's what's inherent in any game anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
Roll high, good. Roll
Yeah.
bad, low,
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah, it's
like
like
if I
D&D.
choose that.
Yeah.
because like Silver Bayonet, I was doing a little how to play for the channel, and like jumping
love
and stuff
that
like that
video.
or falling is cool, but it's like, you want to jump? Well, you just got to take a speed check, and this is your target.
Okay, I've got an actual,
You
I guess,
got one.
real
You got a good one.
hardcore
You got a good
example.
one. Okay.
So, Frostgrave has no races. So there's no elves or goblins or anything.
Okay.
But there's also no statement that they're not there. So all the figures are a stat line based on their profession. So
Yes,
like you're a thief,
yeah.
That's
you're
fun.
a Templar. And in that way, you can use orcs if you want. That's your orc Templar, and that's your orc thief.
Yeah.
Or you can use dwarves. Because one of the frustrations I found in some of the games I played was take Mordheim, for example. Like Mordheim, incredible campaign system. Whenever I played it, though, like, here's the elves. Whee! We can move 7. We grab
Yeah.
the treasure. We're gone. Here's the dwarves. We didn't make it halfway across the table before the game's over.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm forced as a player to not play dwarves because they're not good. But I might really want to play dwarves.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
so I'm going to get out of the way as a game designer and say, use whatever miniatures you want.
Yeah.
It won't affect
Rob,
your
I'm
stats.
sure
I
Rob can feel that.
I
Yeah.
can come because obviously like I do coverage of games a lot.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I will often tell people, I'm like, they're like, I can't do this. I'm like, you can just do whatever you like.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing with elves, as an example, you're playing HCMO, you're playing with elves, and you're like, I'm like, you could just use dwarves instead though. Like if you like the rule set,
Yeah.
like you can
Switch
just
it up.
use
Yeah.
completely different models, and they're like, I couldn't. And I'm like, guess what? You
can.
Nothing's stopping you.
Yeah.
But
I would
think-
never have thought about that.
but people feel incredibly truncated by the border, and I think I do wonder, if people seek validation.
Yeah.
Like they're like the dwarf only moves 3, therefore I play dwarfs.
Yeah.
And like they would never think to let them move 7, maybe because narratively it doesn't work, but also like something about the authority. How do you feel about being the voice of
feel this.
I
authority
hate
in the
it.
game?
I feel
I
this entirely.
absolutely hate it. Like,
Okay.
So when I first started writing games, there were so many things that I didn't say because I didn't think they needed saying, because I just assumed
No.
Yeah.
people play like that, right? Part of that I think comes from having a role-playing background where you just have to make a lot of it up.
Yeah.
Because it's just not in there. And so I was always really fine doing that. But then you come to wargaming, which is much
People like
faster
being
rules.
told what to do and how to do it, I think, some of the time. Like, I'm a bit like that. Like, it would never have occurred to me that I could just use dwarves with the elf stat line, because I'd be like, I feel dirty. I feel like I'm cheating. I feel like this is wrong. And it's like, I don't know. I've always just kind of been like to the book kind of person.
I think the thing that I've learned from seeing lots of people play games is the variance in the gamer.
Yeah.
I think having something like Frostgrave and the other games available gives people, like Peach, for example. I think Peach probably always felt, I don't speak for you.
Yeah.
Did you feel ever a little bit, just like Joe said, like enclosed or closeted by the Games Workshop? Like, is that how you felt?
Yeah. So Age of Sigma was a great move for me because I could do what I want. So I made my Cities of Sigma was I'm not going to say like Cities of Sigma was my creation, but I helped make Cities of Sigma become a bit of a thing because I had humans and I had dwarves, and I just mangled them all together, made some stuff, and went like, I'm just using these. They're from this city. They've got some Stormcast helping out. If I want elves with axes and look like barbarians, I'm going to make some barbarian elves. If I want some dwarves that are going to have halberdiers and work with the halberdiers in the same unit as the halberdiers, I'm going to do that, and that's a unit of halberdiers. And I remember talking to people when Age of Sigmar was starting off, going, you can do what you want, because that was the whole point of it, was like making, because it was these vast realms. And yes, you've got like orcs and goblins and Skaven and stuff, but you could also do what you want. And
it's interesting they've actually gone back on that now, though. Like,
don't do what you want.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, like, especially Cities of Sigmar, not to make this an Age of Sigmar thing, but like the pitch always from very early in the at least the lore and also the miniatures range was that like you could have a combined force of elves and dwarves and humans, and that worked really good. And then when they released the new set of models last year, they were just humans.
Yeah.
Right.
Then when you got to and that was fine. But then when you got to the rules,
and
the rules
lore.
were incredibly like, humans only help humans. Humans don't help dwarfs. If you want dwarfs, you need to have a rune lord.
Yeah, it was a bit racist.
Yeah,
It was a little bit. Like,
it was
why
just-
not? Why aren't we helping our bros down there? Like,
and a lot of people were incredibly like negative about
fun,
that. They were
yeah.
like, this is really bad, which is kind of like, you know, really exemplifies why what you do is really important, because, you know, you get pitched this idea that you could do this thing. Everyone's super cool on that. And it's like, no, immediately racial lines again. It's such a weird,
racial
it was such a weird take in the wider world with D&D losing like racial stuff.
Yeah.
Like they're moving away from that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
So like the authority, being the authority, how's that?
So I've written one mass battle game called Oathmark. Which
Oh
is,
yes, forgot about Oathmark.
That's all right.
Can't
But
believe I forgot
How
about Oathmark.
it was a-
could on your own damn
on
birthday?
your own birthday.
Shameful.
it was a much more difficult experience than any other games. But
Yeah.
but one of the things that I did in that was there are no army lists.
Okay.
So there are dwarves and elves and stuff, but you actually build a kingdom, and this kind of constructs your army list as you go on, because if you have elven cities, you can have elves and things like that.
Yeah.
But it was just this idea of like, well, why do all armies have to be based on race? And if I want to play with dwarves and elves together, why can't I do that? So I'm going to write a game that lets you do that. The other great freedom of both that and like not having racial profiles is it makes balance so much easier.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
I think that's part of kind of what you're saying about different types of gamers. Some
Yeah.
gamers, a lot of the joy they get from the game is finding like how to use this particular race or unit or something, you know, in tandem with this one and this. And it's more of a mental game to them. How can I get the most out of these units? Whereas I couldn't care less about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, let's tell a fun story.
Well, that's the thing.
You know.
It removes a lot of complexity. So, like in other games, it's like, oh, I want to be a wizard. I want to be a pyromancer. So I like fire. So I'm going to be a pyromancer. But now I've got to pick which race I'm going to be, and they all give me different benefits and also good traits, but also negative traits.
And what if you just like dwarves?
And if you just like dwarves, I'm going to be a dwarf pyromancer. But then everyone's like, oh, don't do dwarfs as pyromancers. They're not good.
I think one of the other things though is the other way around. So like I was talking about the old world yesterday. So we just reviewed the dwarven mountain hold. So it's
Love
good we're
dwarves.
talking about dwarves.
Love me a
right?
dwarf.
And they're slow, right? They are slow, just like you said in Mordheim. But mechanically, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Like there is
How
absolutely
come?
because
They can't get to the treasure.
they can't get to a fight.
I guess so. So they're very obviously. I
just get shot
assume.
down.
They just and like
Yeah,
they've
I
got
assume
guns.
they're heavily armored.
They are.
They're very slow.
Yeah.
They
Maybe they've got big guns.
Yes,
they
but not
can't
as
get
good.
on
But not as good
objectives.
guns as other units.
Oh, no.
And actually, they're so slow. And there's like
The game's about speed, though.
yeah,
essentially.
like and the key element though is like that is literally letting the story override the mechanic.
Yeah.
Like the story in that situation, the adherence to the belief of like dwarves are always slow
And heavily armored.
and heavily
have
armored.
big- yeah.
It meant that like the gameplay for them is worse for
Yeah.
you as the consumer.
It's like you said
I
about
guess-
balance, right?
I guess as the
it
player.
creates less balance, actually.
I'm just going to
Interesting.
quickly chuck into that then, because I was a big dwarf player in
Oh yeah.
Warhammer, and one of the benefits there was you were more of a defensive army, so it was always like doing the refused flank or holding the hill. But you had I think it was relentless, so nothing was ever like Because at the time, if you marched and there was enemies near you, you couldn't march. You could only move normally, whereas dwarves ignored that.
Yeah.
So that's where they got their speed. So when there was enemies close by, you're like, I'm still marching because I'm a dwarf and I don't care that you're there. Because I've not played Old World. Does it still have those
Old World's
kind
a
of...
really nice amalgamation of what was Warhammer Fantasy Battle 6th, 8th edition, a bit of Warhammer Fantasy Battles Project, which is like a kind of fan thing, bit of 9th Age, all kind of like coalesced into each other.
Okay.
And then kit bashed. But the interesting element, like I guess that I'm trying to say, is that like I think the link between story and mechanics is like there are multiple levels where you can have a conversation about that. There's like the point where like in that the Dwarven example, story is overriding any thought about making a game that works. And on the other side of that, having something that's being purely story driven means that the mechanics, I sometimes, like with RPGs as an example, when they're like, you can do anything, and you're like, that's too many things. Like, give me a couple of options.
Rob struggles to play role-playing games because he's like,
so many options.
Too much power.
Yeah.
It's too much power for Rob. He's like, cool, if I can do anything, then I'm just gonna do some really weird shit.
Yeah, which is fine, but like
It's not fine at all.
But I don't want that. I want a list of like limited options to make some choices from.
Yeah.
You know, like you already have that like built into your game, which I think is fun. But my point is story and game.
Yeah.
Because I'm really big advocate of this. I do not think they need to be separate. And I think one of the things about like a game is I actually want guidance.
Yeah.
Because I would hope, because I'm buying a thing, right? Like I'm buying a thing and then someone's like, you can play this game. I'm like, that's cool. Like, what does it do? And it's like, whatever you like. I'm like, I can do that anyway. Like, I need a little bit more guidance than that.
Yeah.
Give me more of your universe. Give me more of your like
limitations.
And then you get to Necromunda and you're like, okay, stop.
That's enough slices.
That's
enough.
How do you find like where do you
balance?
Yeah. So I mean, if you just read the Frostgrave rulebook, you won't know very much about the world. I mean, the world is defined in a couple of paragraphs that start it. But then, because I kind of was still thinking in role-playing terms, I started writing supplements. And so, like, the first supplement is literally just one campaign where this lich is rising up and trying to take over Frostgrave. And you're these wizards and you're fighting each other, but you're also like, at some point we probably ought to deal with that problem over there because you keep running into his minions. So if you buy the supplements, you do get the like, here, play this, play this scenario than this one.
A bit more of a narrative storyline. Yeah.
So at least that's one of the stories. I try to do something different with all the supplements, but that was the first one to kind of show like, this is how you can play
the Witch Lord?
Yeah, Thor of the Lich Lord.
He's
You already forgot Oathmark, Peachy, so...
No. It's a
you
game
don't
I
get
do wanna
any
try
brownie
as well.
points now.
But I should like that game as well because I love the idea of like realm building.
Yeah.
So one of the things I like I like maps, but with me, because there is no map for Frostgrave, I can now make my map for Frostgrave because it's not dictated what that should look like. Which is why I think Age of Sigmar was great when it's early days because there was no like, this is where Hammerhal is, this is where Anvilgard is. It's like, I'm going to put my city wherever I want. I'm going to make my little map.
So it was one of the big criticisms of Age of Sigmar when it came out. And I think given it's been like, 8 years?
10 years.
Oh my God.
Welcome to the party.
Oh my God, that's crazy. It's been like 10 years since Age of Sigmar came out. And I think actually it was a really good thing. I'm going to get in trouble for saying this on the internet. But what happened was like they got rid of all the formulas for everything. And then they put it in this brand new place, which didn't have a map. And it meant that you could be really creative. And I think that the designers of the miniatures kind of like were like that too. Because they were like, cool, now that there's no real boundaries for Slaanesh, let's make it even weirder.
So I made a video, which is like, what the fuck is AOS? As like a YouTube video.
Oh, so it's a really good one, I think, isn't it?
I appreciate that. And I did compliment like the miniature sculptors specifically because they brought out, I don't know if you've seen it, they brought out like, the new Soulblight Gravelord, so the old vampire counts.
Yeah.
So they brought them out, but they are like one of the models is like a lady vampire, but she's like half a giantess, a vampire, and half a centaur bat. Right?
A lot of people hate this miniature.
A lot of people hate that mini. Like a lot of people hate that mini. But I think one of the things that like I would like to compliment at least like the design team, like the sculptors and stuff in that regard, is that they were just like, cool, we could just do vampires. We know what vampire counts look like. They exist. There's loads of vampire tropes. But what about vampire centaur lady? And everyone's like, weird.
I think the
like,
fleshier parts are my favorite.
Yeah, too far. But like, what I like about it is
Yeah.
that like they're actually being brave in the fantasy setting. Like, someone you can't just be continuously reductive forever. There has to be.
And if they continued with Warhammer Fantasy, maybe they wouldn't have had that because there were so many already maps, rules, limitations. Everything's already known. Yeah, what you
I was going to say, take the dwarf tank.
Yeah.
You know, the dwarf tank was a cool thing. I liked it. But it was like, but old Warhammer, we don't have tanks.
Did you ever sneak one out?
No. I painted
You could have been rich.
3 for the studio because we did, there was troop transports and then one which was like an Anvil of Doom. So you had like 2 variants and stuff, and then Heavy Metal did. So there was 5 painted because Heavy Metal did a colour variant. Well, one of one type, one of the other type, and for our army because we did the Zuthbar army, we did 3. You won't find anything. The most expensive basing kit is the Sylvaneth Tree Lord because it's got a bit of the tank sculpted on the base.
So a question from me is so when they like do these miniatures that never make it to public sale, what happens to them? Like
the mold exists.
Yeah, the mold will just be in like some kind of room somewhere.
I think it was in the molding process because they grew the bits because we had resins.
Yeah.
So that means there was sculptured parts that had been 3D printed. So it was, I believe, I was definitely in the meetings where they were making the sprue and the engineers there, because in meetings you'd have like a writer, a painter, a sculptor, a games designer, someone from engineering and tooling going, this isn't going to fit on the sprue.
It's actually really funny, those meetings. It sounds like it's like they all come together and they stamp it. Like it's got to go to the different guilds. Guilds. We decree it shall be made.
It's true though.
It kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, like Harlequins was a great example because they made a load of stuff. We painted loads of stuff. And then the tooling guys were like, all these faces ain't going to fit on the sprue. We're going to have to remove half of them. And it was the half that we put on all our armies. Right. And it was like, snip. Which ones are we allowed again? These ones. Okay, snip.
And then one will always trickle into a photograph,
which
and
is
people.
Why contents may vary.
Yeah,
that's why that's there.
Okay.
But going back to Age of Sigmar, it kind of, I think early days was very much like the thing that you don't like, which is like there's too much choice.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And
people hated that there wasn't a map in Age of Sigmar because they had just gone from this
and there were points, right?
Yeah. There were no points.
Foolishly, but like still. They made that like bold, like do what you like, and like if there's never been a greater example that do what you like just to a degree beyond a certain boundary is like too far. How do you like who's your checks and balance for yourself, especially someone who doesn't like rules?
That's a good question. I did want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I actually know exactly when Age of Sigmar came out because it was literally right before Frostgrave came out that they destroyed the old world.
Oh, really?
So like the same month they destroyed the old world, Frostgrave came out.
Wow.
So like everybody was like, burn it all. Let's go look for something else.
That's good timing.
Yeah, we totally planned that.
Oh, perfect.
That's wild. Yeah, because loads of people were mad.
Because I've read internet comments where people have said, "Oh, you made that as like a thing to counter the fact that the old world had been destroyed." Yeah, but
nah.
Kind of good timing.
No, just good timing.
Just timing. Yeah.
Anyway.
Luck is everything.
Well, one of the things that we've constantly said on the show, and I've said to Peachy and Louise, is like, I think the creative process when you start hearing about the stories is accidental.
Yeah.
Like the how did you get this? Well, like sure you wanted to be a writer since you were young, but you got a job, you had that conversation. Like they're organic almost in some people are very driven and they're like that's what I want to create.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have that idea, and I'm sure you did later. But
I mean, I still, after I wrote Frostgrave, I still thought that was fun. I'm done.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't.
What?
I don't know. It's funny because I always wanted to be a writer, and I've spent my entire life playing games. Why can't I get? Why did it never really occur to me to bring these two things together?
That makes sense.
And then it happened by accident, and then Frostgrave comes out, and they destroy the old world, and everybody buys it because they're looking for something else. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Actually, there might be something here. And Osprey's like, why don't you write some more? I was like, well, I guess I could. But and then 10 years later.
I feel that. So like, I really like talking and painting miniatures, but it never occurred to me that I should do YouTube. Like
other people might be interested in this.
Yeah.
So what you just said then, I tried to say that earlier, but badly. So thank you for doing that.
What did you try to say?
I don't know what I said, but that's great.
About the creative process, falling into it and by accident.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you fall into it by accident. I think there's intent behind it, right? Like you intended to write Frostgrave.
Yeah.
But
But all right, so for when it started, I had Phil, who was He's now in charge of Osprey Games. At that
Cool.
time, he's
Hi, Phil.
Hi,
just
Phil.
hi Phil.
Hi.
So he was the editor at that time, and I do remember him like. So he read through Frostgrave. He's like, I think this is great. I think we can make something big of it. You realize you've put no victory conditions whatsoever in this game.
Right.
There's
How do you win?
Literally no way to win. And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, but do you need a way to win? I mean, because you get experience points and you get treasures. So surely you just decide if you win, right? So he's like, no. So there is a paragraph in there. If you get more treasure, you win. That's literally it. But so there are a few things like that. He's been my biggest kind of check through the years. He's always been there to go, yeah, too far.
You need
know?
kind of a business guy sometimes.
You do.
Yeah,
You need
I mean,
a person.
he is a very creative guy, but he's also much more practical than I am.
Rob's my that.
So
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't have any of that. Oh, Mrs. Peach, I suppose. Yeah, Mrs. Peach.
Mrs.
You're my
Peach.
checks
Yeah,
and
yeah.
balance.
Well, interestingly, when I review games, the first thing I do is actually check the victory condition first, because everything informs everything not because like I'm like hard coded to I must win.
Yeah.
But like I like doing
interesting.
I love doing cool mechanics. Like when I review an army or I review a thing, I'm like, this is a cool thing you can do. And then people are like, that's cool. And I'm like, because the cool thing can be completely divorced from trying to win a thing. And sometimes they can be correlated and like intended together. And like, you know, the people are very different. But I always start with like, how do you win? Like, because Old World's really interesting. You win by killing more stuff than your opponent.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, cool. And I'm like, that means you don't ever have to fight them. And people are like,
What?
what did you just say?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you don't have to. If you just shoot them, kill one unit, get 150 points, you've won the game. And they're like, but surely I must run across the board and lose. And I'm like, guess what? No. And they're like, what? Like, and I'm
Also,
like,
objectives in Age of Sigmar, it's like it's become less like you have to kill as much stuff and more like who can just sit
on this spot.
Sit on this spot for the
Lay an
longest.
egg.
yeah, who can
Yeah.
see- yeah.
What do you say? It's a resource collecting game now rather than a war game.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
that's what it
really
is.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So I did get some pushback on Frostgrave. Some
yeah?
people are like, well, you put out treasure on the board and then everybody goes to get it. You could just agree like who gets what treasure. And
That's
I'm like,
kind of cool though.
well, yeah, but that's not a war game. That's just like collective
bartering
bargaining.
game.
Yeah, it's like, but you don't
I
need to.
don't
Like
know.
if people have shown up with their figures and their dice, they're gonna fight each other.
Yeah,
You don't have to give them much excuse. You go, here's a few things, fight over these. All right, let's get them.
I want to play Barter Hammer.
Yeah.
I wanna-
I mean, unless you're doing cooperative and you're fighting the monsters,
Then you
right?
can then you can do it.
So-
that
I
way.
love that.
Yeah, it's interesting. How you look at a game is very. So my way I look at a game, which is why I love your stuff, is about character creation and army creation.
Love
That's the thing that I focus on first. And you know
I love
this.
that too.
No, what I'm saying is like that's my.
They're not fun.
No, obviously, but I judge a game by that.
Yeah.
So how I can create stuff, and then as Rob will know, I don't care after that, because if I build a unit because I like the look of it, and then it's pants in the game, Steam Tank, for instance.
Oh my God, can I tell this story?
Yeah. Can I? I
Do you
don't
mind if
know
I tell
the
a
story. I don't know the story.
So way back in the day, I used to work at Games Workshop.
What?
And I know. And and I was doing we were doing live streams of games. That's what I was doing. I was like, basically as a company, in order to sell stuff, you should show people using these minis is cool.
You're
And they were
crazy.
like, wow, it's crazy that idea. I was like, let me try it. Apparently that worked. And so Peachy, who seemed like a really nice bloke, and Rob Crouchley, they would come on. I would do two games. I would do like a tournament game in the evening. In the day, we would live stream two people doing like a fun kind of like continued like narrative that we would do. And I think it was quite engaging, and specifically because Peachy and Rob made it really engaging.
Right.
They're both great hobbyists. They're super.
People like to watch them. They're just cool.
Yeah, like Rob's a writer for Necromunda now. Like they're super creative people, and every week they would like come up and they would just tell this story. There was a barter phase at one point, because there was a point where like Peachy
sure there was
had
Peachy
like a
was
cities army, and then Rob was running like a vampire army, and like Rob literally like moved up to the castle and was like, I seek you to come out, and like they were really RPing it up, and it was really fun. But there was this bit where loads of Peachy's army had been destroyed, and then at this point, I'm a pretty seasoned tournament gamer. I know every rule. I know everything. I know how it works, right? And then I watched the most beautiful little fella, Peachy, walk into a store. He walks past me, and I'm sat with Dan, who's another really big tournament gamer. And we're sat there, and Peachy
Bradshaw?
walks up. He walks up with with steam tank. He's like, I really need a unit that's going to survive. I need a unit that's going to survive and it's going to do some damage at range. I was like, okay. So he's like, so I've got a steam tank.
That makes sense.
That,
it's a tank.
That makes loads of sense.
It's a tank.
That makes loads of sense.
Yeah.
That makes absolutely loads of sense.
On paper, I'm with him. I'm like, that's a great idea.
It's a great idea.
What could possibly go wrong?
And I just was like thumb, and Dan was like thumb. Yeah, and the Ludo narrative dissonance where
the Ludo narrative dissonance.
Yes.
He's lost me on that one.
Yeah,
too.
sorry.
I was gonna let him go.
I heard Ludo. I know that's a game.
Ludo's a character in the labyrinth. He's a big dog.
Okay. What I mean is
The Ludo narrative dissonance is my band name.
Okay.
That's a genre of
I
music.
feel really embarrassed now.
You might need to put this up on the whiteboard.
Yeah, I apologize. Anyway, the difference between what a unit should do and what it actually does
there
do.
We go.
Because it has
back.
Okay, apologies. Is pretty vast, and so watching someone because he basically had a pudding in his hand. He had a potato. It doesn't do anything. It was terrible. They wrote terrible rules for it. It did nothing. It had like one attack. It hit on like a 5. It was atrocious. And it was like really expensive, and it would just die. And he was just like, "This is the answer." And it should be. That's what I meant by rules earlier.
Right.
When you write a rule, you see a tank that's like got a gun, and you're like, this should be survivable and shoot stuff. Yeah. And it did neither of those two things.
Why did it do neither of those things?
I didn't write the rules. Why not? I don't know.
I don't know. They look great.
That's so sad.
Yeah, it's like a Lord of Change, Sigmar right now. Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
Who's the god, the avatar of one of the gods of magic, really.
Chaos,
it's just the same as like a Scragrot.
One of my favorite things that Rob described is there's a Cities of Sigmar guy who's just like chugging a big beer or something.
Attached to a cannon crew. And there's just the kind of like reality of the situation. If someone goes up to that guy who's just like a big lad with an apron chugging some beer and he's like, right, so we've got the god of death over there. Right, with like Nagash, and you're just gonna shoot him. It's literally the god of death. Just give him a wee. And you're just Barry with a beer.
Just Barry with a beer is just shooting them. I kind of love that.
That's the reason why he's
If your
drinking the
job
beer.
is to like gun down the god of death, you're probably going to want a beer first.
I love it. I think that's hilarious. But there is this weird thing you get on the tabletop, which is stuff like that. And I guess it doesn't count when it's like Scragrot's the same as the literal embodiment of change.
Yeah, it feels a little bit. A little bit
what
like
was it? Ludo
cockhead. Is that what you're trying to say?
Ludo cognitive narrative dissonance.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. You
Big
words. Big words.
Yeah, I'll beat myself out there. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Whoop. Anyway, so how do you deal with Ludo narrative dissonance?
I was just thinking about like how hard it is to be a rules writer in the sense like Peachy could show up with a steam tank, right? And say it had absolutely amazing rules, but then you sat at the table and there's a river across it.
Yes.
And it's just like, well, your tank's now worthless. So the only game that really Oathmark has point values is Oathmark that I've written. And like, that was so hard. Because you have trolls in it that are amphibious, essentially. They can walk across water. That power is worthless unless there's water on the table.
Yeah.
Yes.
But since I literally have no idea whether there's going to be water on your table, how many points do you assign to that ability?
Yes.
And, and there's so many, like flying. I hate flying. Flying is the worst thing in war games because either it's kind of worthless or it destroys the scenario completely because you go, we fly onto it, we win.
Yeah.
So I used to do a thing because I had a big guard army and I had chimeras and they have the amphibious rule.
Yeah, woo!
No one brought to like the 41st millennium.
We're playing in an ocean.
Yeah.
There was never any water.
Yeah.
I always used to make a piece of water, stick on the tabletop, and purposely drive my chimera into it just so I could make use of my amphibious.
He just pours a little puddle of water on the ground and he's just like, fuck you.
I feel at that point you're more committed to the idea that they're amphibian than they are a tank. I think like the idea is that they're humans in the horror
They've
setting
got a
of
rule. I'm going to use the rule.
Fine. I think the concept is they're fighting for humanity. Not the main takeaway is that they're amphibious, but go off. Yeah.
So I'm going to quickly ask Joe about Stargrave, Frostgrave, and Silver Bayonet. Have a very clever narrative hook, which is they have a bit of backstory, but it's quite open to allow the player like myself to add so much to it. So like you've got Frostgrave, which is it's the dead city, and what the bloody hell's the city called? You have to tell me. Thank you, Felstad. And that's it. You get that information as like a couple of paragraphs at the start, and you're fighting over that's the narrative. You get Stargrave, it's like it's an ancient war. There's been a big civil war across the galaxy. You're the remnants of that. Go off and like be a pirate or be like a good, peace-faring crew. And then you got Silver Bayonet, which is you're fighting the harvesters. What the harvesters? Not going to tell you. It's your job to work that out. You're fighting the harvesters. There's just lots of dead rising.
Like farmers.
Yeah, there's just lots of farmers coming in with some wheat.
They're like harvesting fear and terror.
Oh, okay.
So
I was this sounds like Rebel Moon.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like quite clear, open, but direct enough to give you something to work with as well. So I think it's quite. Was that something you intended, or was that just happened?
I didn't think about this when I was doing Frostgrave because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. But since then, I've come to realize that like what I want to be as a rules writer is someone who's giving you just enough to encourage you in the parts of the hobby you love.
Oh.
And that can be anything. So like if you love painting miniatures, I want you to be able to paint whatever miniatures you want and not get in your way. If you love writing backstory, I want to leave that backstory open as much as I can.
That's really cool.
And so that there's finding that balance. And, I guess that's just sort of inherent. It's just who I am. So that's how I write it.
I like that. I think that's really sweet.
It's a very smart way of doing it.
For me and Peachy, I think if I was more into gaming again, like the whole thing I was into is that bit, which is building my guys. Like they're my guys. They all had names. They all have backstories. And it's great to find a game which is like, it encourages that part of it, which is like super cool. And I think that's Peachy's favorite part.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
I think what's good is that it exists for people who want to do it. Like when I play video games, like Total War is a good example. I don't use any mods.
Yeah.
Because I want to play as Nurgle and run around. Like Nurgle's actually really boring. But like, I want to play as one of the armies and run around.
Yeah.
I don't need to make them all Teletubbies or Pikachu or
Wait,
like,
you can do that?
Yeah, definitely.
Why
do what
the
you
fuck
want.
haven't we been doing that?
You just use the dwarf stats.
Just use the dwarf stats.
Exactly.
Teletubbies now.
Wait, can we...
I don't know.
Can we do that
Maybe.
later?
You could probably make
Maybe.
it more Randy Savage. I've seen that before.
Oh my god, no, because we could 3D scan Rob and make them all Robs.
Okay, let's move on.
Guess what we're doing later?
Not that.
Too far.
Yeah, too far. Too much creativity. But like the interesting thing is I just play the game.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to mod it or add anything or do anything. So I just like the base game. Like, and that's fine. That's plenty for me. And I guess what's nice about this is this definitely gives people that like more moddable like freedom. Which feels super nice. And they're different crowd. Not different, because I think they vary, right? Like you play the base game, you play the modded game. And I think like it's nice to be able to have games that exist with more like freedom of expression.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge one of the toughest times, I guess, early in my gaming career. Frostgrave comes out, it's immediately a little hit, and everybody's having fun and kind of playing the game exactly as I intended it. And then it hits some sort of critical mass where the wider industry started to notice, and so some more people started to come in, and you get these kind of tournament players, I guess, and like they start asking me all these questions that I just don't have answers for, because it's just like I don't know because I don't care, like what happens when blam blam blam, and it took me a long time to realize like that's never actually occurred in any game they've ever actually played. It's just a theoretical they've constructed, and that's fine. That's how they kind of enjoy these things, but I don't have an answer for it, and I'm not going to answer it because
that would
I don't need to write
nuts.
900 pages of errata. Just in the incredibly unlikely event that occurs, just choose one. I don't care. Like
is that what you? Because I was going to ask.
Eventually, that is what I said.
Because how do they take that?
Well, not well.
Oh,
probably.
No.
No, I mean, not like I got in any flame wars.
Yeah,
eventually,
good.
basically, those people drift off because I finally reached a point where I was comfortable enough to say like, this probably just isn't the game for you.
Yeah.
That's
great.
That's
great.
completely
That's a great
fair.
response.
Yeah, that's really, really like balanced and fair.
I don't mind that. Like
not everything is going to be tailored to everyone's tastes. Like I struggle to play 40k, but I have found a way that I can enjoy it in my own way, which isn't probably exactly how it is in the books. You get a few things wrong, but as long as you play with someone who plays the same way with you, that's fine.
It's actually incredibly hard to develop system mastery for like a tabletop game. I try to say this all the time. Games are really hard.
Yeah.
Games are really, really hard. And
Especially Warhammer games.
Yeah, especially Games Workshop games. No,
Holy
like
shit.
let's throw them under the bus. Definitely, like as someone who
shit.
professionally reviews them, especially those games, like because they're not built to last. They're not built to be something. You know, Sigmar 4 just came out. I'm in the process of just reviewing it all. In 1 year's time, they start work on their 2-year cycle of producing Age of Sigmar
that's
5.
so upsetting.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So like I'm there, like I've just played a tournament, just going to play one in a couple of weeks. Like already, the stuff that I'm committed to my memory, has a finite date upon it.
Yeah.
Why
So,
do
like-
you think it's like that? Why don't they just build one that is it better? Is it worse?
Money.
Is it
So yeah.
I do remember like a friend of mine when 9th
People buy
edition
the
came
thing.
out or
Yeah.
something, sent me like the rules for cover. And like I was reading them and I'm like, I write rules and I don't understand
Yeah, yeah.
this. Like, surely you just say, looks like they're mostly in cover. They're in cover. You know, like
Yeah, I think
So-
that unfortunately it's just because they're like they're not a games company. Like that's
They're a miniatures company. I know.
are they or
Well,
are they
they Warhammer?
Warhammer?
They
Yeah.
workshop games. That's what they do.
yeah, we workshop them. No, they you know, I say this a lot. I try really hard to say this for an incredibly small writing staff that they have, and as under resources they have for the audience that they have, which is obviously a huge audience. They
don't
deliver.
understand how I think small it still feels inside Games Workshop.
There's like 3 people who write all. There's like 3 people who write all of 40k. That's nothing compared to like because they write 25 a new edition and 25 armies, including campaigns, every 3 years. You know, they'll be writing army books while they're writing the new edition. That must be I don't know. Does that sound mind-boggling as a task?
Yes. I mean, because surely you'd be like you're writing the Orc Codex and you're thinking, hey, in 3 years I'm going to change this. You know, like it's like I don't have time to change it now, but the next one I'll get that.
Yeah.
I mean, I could look back and I made decisions that have long lasted in workshop just because. No, I don't think that's right.
Oh.
Yeah, because I'm like, we're going to paint this army this color. That's a personal choice. I like that color. We're going to paint it. It goes through no checks and balances other than the army painting going, we know how colors work. We're going to make it that color. And everyone's just like, okay, you make that. I'm like,
Bretonians can't be green.
No one's going to call me out on that.
Bretonians can't be green, Louise.
Can't be green.
Yeah, can't be green.
Yeah, I messed up.
I know.
I know.
I was shouting at the computer. What is she doing? What is she doing?
I literally
green?
I put it in my video. I was like, because I had the white dwarf where it says Bretonians can't be green, and guess what I said? I was like, and then threw it away.
Actually, I loved your honesty in that video
Yeah.
because at the end you said
I
like,
didn't know you watched it.
yeah, I did.
Oh,
I
it's
said
on it.
because you said like I don't know if I've actually painted this better
No.
than they did, and it's funny because I sat there like staring at the screen going, yeah, I don't know if you did either. I
Yeah,
mean, they're both
literally.
good, but
Yeah.
like
We're going to come around. We're going to ask what we're doing this week. But I've done the exact same thing again. I've just fucked up everything again. I think I'm probably in my head, I'm like, yeah, I could do so much better. And then I'm constantly in the habit of humbling myself hugely, which I fucking hate. But
Can we talk about this?
Yeah, so this is what
can.
you've been doing recently, right?
Death
Yeah.
Ship 1.
I just read the back and I really like it.
Yes, thank you for that. I think you have made
You're
the
welcome.
best tagline in any game ever.
What is it?
God,
The Silver
I hope I
Bayonet,
wrote
which
this.
is-
Actually.
You wrote
this
this.
is actually the marketing
Oh, yeah, because
department.
this is what got me interested
Yeah,
in
I
it.
literally said to these two, a war
Yeah.
game of Napoleonic Gothic horror, and everyone
Was that
was
you?
sold.
I think
So,
that was me.
Congratulations.
I'm the biggest Lovecraft fan in the world, apart from obviously all the racism and shit. But I love Lovecraftian
I'm up
horror
there with him.
and
Yeah.
stuff. But I saw that and I was instantly like, oh yeah, that's cool as fuck. I love that.
It's
That's great.
Yeah,
smart.
that is good.
I have actually written some Lovecraft scenarios for it on my Patreon. I have to be very I love Lovecraft and I love mixing him with games.
Yeah,
but,
same.
But you have to be really careful with him in a game where you have like continuous characters
Yeah.
because Lovecraftian characters don't last.
They
They
just-
get wrecked. Right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're always writing about how they're going crazy up
Yeah.
until the moment that they just
So it's like,
pop
well,
off.
I painted my warband. I just spent, 50 hours painting these figures. Oh, they just went all in irrevocably insane after one scenario.
We were watching, what was it,
Sorry.
The Color Out of Space, and I was trying
Dear
to
God.
explain to Rob the concept of a Lovecraftian protagonist, and I'm like, just don't get used to it. Just like, if you like him, just stop. Just don't get attached. He's,
yeah,
he's
I've
dead.
discovered the
If
concept.
he's lucky, he kills himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I discovered the concept of a Lovecraftian protagonist is just a badly written one. That's what I discovered.
My favorite thing.
from the movies Louise has showed me.
To be fair, Lovecraft has not been well served by
No.
cinema.
Okay, fair enough.
No, I fully agree. I think one of my favorite things that Lovecraft has been like adapted to in cinema is actually Prometheus,
Oh.
which is just the Mountains of Madness retold, and I consider that one of my favorite Lovecraftian movies that has come out because I think it actually did
I might
well.
actually like it more if I think about it through that lens.
Okay.
It is
It wouldn't take
literally
much to like it more, but
it was supposed to be the Mountains of Madness, and then they
Right.
readapted it into
Okay, all right.
the
I
alien
do
thing.
really want to talk about this,
yes.
but I do really want to know what, because I think you love movies, and I want to know what
I
your
do
favorite.
love
what's your-
Do you?
Can you give me a
Oh,
couple of? Can you give me a couple of
Can I
movies?
slag off
wait a minute,
Prometheus?
well,
Yeah, you
yeah.
can. Feel
All
free.
right.
Okay,
You know what I love about Prometheus?
I love
Is that
Prometheus.
It's this crew of highly trained specialists,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You've got the guy who maps everything.
Love.
He gets lost.
Okay.
You've got the bioscientist who understands all alien stuff.
He
pokes the alien egg with a stick. And just the whole movie's like
so
that. It's
bad.
just like, I'm really smart. I'm going to do something really dumb now.
So wait, I was specifically smart in this field,
Exactly.
and I'm going to do the opposite.
But let's poke it with a stick.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a bit like
But isn't
Steve
that-
Austin, isn't it? It's just like, what happens if we touch you with a stick?
Exactly.
But isn't that like a criticism of humanity? Like the engineers created this race to be like their servitude, and they're inherently stupid.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
that is kind of the Lovecraftian
So
twist
stupid
at
that when the
end.
giant donut spaceship is
Oh my
rolling
God,
after you,
they
you
run
don't
in front of it,
turn.
yeah.
Turn, just turn. Like,
because I watched
right
it.
or left. It doesn't matter.
I watched it when I was really young when it came out, and I didn't have any nerdy friends at the time, and I watched it and I was like, that's the best movie ever.
man.
And then I joined like Forge World, and everyone was like, that was the shittest movie I've ever seen. And I was like, oh fuck, I still love it.
I think that was one of my biggest differences between hope going into the movie and like
Yeah.
coming out of the movie.
Yeah.
It's just like I came in with high expectations and they were crushed.
Really, I loved it.
absolutely
I still,
trodden upon.
I
It's just
love
like-
Prometheus.
Okay, so
in the
movies you
dirt.
do love.
Oh, movies I do like.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
We can
well,
all take a moment.
So Aliens.
Yeah,
The second one
obviously.
especially.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's one of those movies where just like
Yeah,
at age
that's
14,
yours.
Well, the
I'm
big, like,
here.
exorcism. Yeah.
I think that's probably the pinnacle of alien related movies because they've tried to do that again and always failed.
What aliens?
Yeah. Because
yeah.
whenever they try and get like some other humans in it or like some Marines, it's never the same as aliens. It
Just-
always ends up being like, and they're trying to be computer games. I know you're probably not playing with, but like Colonial Marine Corps, whatever.
Yeah.
It's just not the same.
It just
There is a
doesn't
new
hit the
one
same.
coming out soon.
I've heard this, but it's not Colonial Marine Corps going, ooh,
I
and then
It
getting
apologise.
might
killed.
be.
It might be.
It might
It might be.
be.
I don't think it
We'll
is.
see.
Might be.
But yeah, you're right. I love
Sorry, yeah.
aliens
Okay.
too. Great
Aliens.
series of
Aliens,
movies.
yeah.
yeah.
They feel like they're pretty obvious. You
Yeah.
know, The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
just
Great.
Especially-
They don't have to be obvious.
My favorite book, my favorite movie, same answer. You know, like it's Lord of
Same,
the Rings.
same.
Yeah, you know.
So Rob doesn't think Lord of the Rings holds up very well as
Well,
a movie.
So what? That's not true.
Have you not said this? You
That's
said
not
the
me.
CGI doesn't look great.
That's not me.
Okay, now I will
Sorry,
say
boss.
this, right?
Sorry, boss. Not
wrong,
me.
wrong bitch.
Wrong bitch.
The correct way to watch Lord of the Rings, though, is extended edition, theatrical release.
Wow.
Return of
Okay.
the King,
Really?
extended
Oh.
edition, not better than the
But then you
theatrical.
don't get the end with the
Oh.
rosy comet.
Well, you still get Rosie Cut.
Get more rosy comet.
The only important thing you lose is Éomer seeing Éowyn on the battlefield and that incredible like
you're right.
ripping off his helmet and like, but things you also don't get the entire Mouth of Sauron, which is just an
Oh, shut up.
awful scene.
No!
awful
Mouth of Sauron's
scene.
like my favorite character.
There's nothing redeemable about that.
Great. Carry on.
It's because I can do the smile because I have like quite a gummy smile and I'm just like, indeed, Gandalf.
What's really horrible about that though is like you spend 3 movies building up Aragorn as this incredibly
Yeah.
honorable, and it's just like hack, boring conversation
Oh my
anyway.
God,
You
love.
know, like
I just love it.
Well,
I
he's
just
a
love
king
his
now.
little like.
Yeah.
Like, the rest of the time, he has been.
now I can just
He's
hack off
he's
heads.
like, oh, now I'm a king. I can just chop off people's heads when I want.
No, I love
Yeah,
Mouth of
like, that's
Sauron.
why he's like
I will
ascending.
fight
Power's
you.
gone to
like
his head.
Go to his
when
head.
Peter Jackson goes totally Games Workshop in the Paths of the Dead and just goes, you know what we need? More skulls. We're just gonna pour skulls out of every wall.
Yeah.
And it's just
I
like,
like
what?
the Trump
What?
impression. Why is Peter We're gonna have so many skulls.
So many skulls.
They're gonna be so bigly, and it's gonna.
Pete, what's your favorite movie?
Of all time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flash Gordon.
Oh.
Wow, that says so much to
Are
me.
you
right
gonna,
there.
are you gonna
That
watch
is
it as a
that is-
birthday treat?
Can you give us a flash?
Oh, the Flash.
Hey, dear,
There's
what
so
do you
much about that
prefer?
film.
Wow, that was an
That's
unexpected.
a great movie.
Unexpected
Great movie.
answer.
Yeah.
What's your favorite movie, Rob?
Mine's The Matrix.
Very fair.
I watched.
How old were you when The Matrix came out?
I was like in my teens.
Okay, so you were right in that like
He was-
critical.
yeah.
Yeah, I was right in
Young
that.
and impressionable.
Yeah.
I think,
very
yes.
very impressionable. But I really like the fight scenes and everything was super great.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I ended up starting reading a bunch of like the creativity, like what inspired its creation. And so when like 2 and 3 came out, which I'm a big 2 and 3 fan.
I like the whole Matrix
I know there's a
series.
lot. I know
do
there's a
too.
lot of people who are like, obviously these are garbo, but I don't agree with that because
I like the Star Wars prequels as well. I have no taste.
Uh-oh.
I have
Yeah.
no taste.
Okay.
Yeah,
I like the-
I'm not ashamed. I'm a
yeah,
pleb.
like I'm
Phantom Menace has its moments.
pod racing.
Pod racing.
Yeah.
Good lightsaber fights.
It's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just watched them when I was young, and I just thought they were super cool. And
The most streamed Star
Ewan
Wars.
McGregor tries
Okay.
through the whole thing. No one else does.
I love you and McGregor.
Well, of course you do.
Of course you
he's,
do.
he's Ewan McGregor. But everyone else, you can see the point in the prequels where they give up. You know, it's just like
Not
Natalie,
Jar Jar.
Natalie Portman, the light just goes
Not
out of her
Jar
eyes.
Jar.
Like Jar Jar
But
just
Ewan
didn't give
McGregor's
up.
still there.
He's
Imagine it.
He's like, I will deliver the worst lines as best I can.
He will. He will.
But
So
yeah,
will Boss Nass.
You like.
I like the
Matrix.
exposition. I like the conversations that
Exposition.
happen in. I think that they're actually quite good. But I know that I'm in a minority of people who believe this. But I think the conversations and like the concept, especially like I think also fairly prophetic and early 2000s, starting to look at what social media and like generally integration. This podcast is like a good example of that, right?
Are
like,
we in the Matrix?
No,
Are you about to red pill me?
No,
This
oh my
isn't
God.
real Coke?
Whoa.
Anyway, that's my favorite movie probably.
All right.
Are you
Yeah,
gonna
I've got
ask
Hell
my
in the High
friends?
Water if you've seen that.
Oh yes, I've
With Chris
seen that,
Pine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
That-
really
that's
good,
an-
especially like Midwestern
I don't
American.
think I've seen it. Is it a West?
It's a modern Western.
Yeah.
A modern
It's a
Western.
modern
I haven't
Western.
watched many Westerns.
Western. You should watch
many
more
Westerns.
Westerns.
I've watched some Westerns.
Yeah, modern Westerns.
I like cartoons.
What's your favorite movie then?
Thank you.
That's a cartoon.
I actually don't know. I have so many. I like a lot of horror movies.
Is it
I like
Disney's Robin Hood?
I like. Oh my god, so good.
So good.
So good.
Exactly. All right, good.
Yeah.
No,
We're
I,
all on one same
I like,
page.
I like dark fantasies. I like a lot of like The Labyrinth, Dark Crystal. I like Secret of Nim.
Secret of Nim. I used to have a
Love Secret of Nim.
hardback graphic novel of that when I
It's
was a
so
child.
violent, though.
It's
Like,
it is.
It's like,
It is.
I love
we
it.
watched
Yeah.
it the
So
other day,
much
and I was
blood.
like, "Oh my god, stop!"
I love anything Don Bluth does. I think rotoscoping is fun. I liked. I don't know. I have so many.
Yeah.
Okay,
I've
that's
got a
good.
guilty pleasure.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
And it's the Hobbit movies. They got
I
slated quite a lot.
love the
Right?
Hobbit.
I'll give you
modern
number
ones.
one.
Yeah.
I'll
The
give you
modern
number
ones?
one.
Yeah,
What's wrong with them?
Oh, people hated them.
Yeah, if you're a big Lord of the Rings fan,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not this.
People
I mean, the only
hated
problem
them.
with them is that they're terrible.
Oh,
I mean, on essentially every level.
It's the GoPro barrel scene.
I didn't know we were looking for
The
Lord
sad
of the
thing
Rings
is
for quality.
like,
If you've
Because-
not learned it your entire life, which like me and Peachy have, then it was really hard for me to break those habits because it's just the way I've painted for so long and it works.
Yeah, but then
But-
when the minute you showed me how to slap chop, yeah, I was like, I don't ever like. Why did you
Yeah.
show me this?
I'm not
like,
doing that.
yeah, like why did you
Never
show
gonna.
me this 8 years ago? That's all I needed.
I'm sorry.
You know, like, and I think that's why it's been so popular
Yeah, and
because
contrast paint as well is super popular. Like, why did they make contrast paint?
yeah,
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 it's because
yeah.
people want to paint fast.
yeah. So
And people also people see Golden Demon miniatures as like aspirational. And I'm glad that I spent as long painting or as like I tried hard to make the orc using the Citadel painting system as well as I can. Because it does show that even if you've been doing this for so many years, something's missing. Like there is still a missing link between Citadel painting system and the way your favorite painters that are aspirational are painting. So the videos more become kind of like how to start to jump across to those other painting methods and other skills and incorporating more fun into your miniature and stuff like that. So I'm really happy with that being the end result, even if it's not like the very clickbaity, like this looks terrible and this looks great, this will change the way you paint forever or something like that. I'm really happy. I'd rather be honest than
Yeah, no,
yeah, that's the right way to do it. Yeah, that's the right way to do it. Definitely.
yeah. And I've also been doing Gundams.
Yes.
Gundam.
Yes, I wanted. I don't know why I've waited so long to like start it. I think it's just because my
Same.
desk has been really messy and I wanted it to be really clean. But at the weekend, I was like, I'm gonna build my first Gundam. I'm gonna do it. And guess what? It's freaking fun.
Yeah.
It's freaking
Have
fun.
you ever built a Gundam?
I have not.
Oh.
So
me, same boat.
I'm a big fan of giant stompy robots.
Oh, you should get into it.
But yeah, I don't know.
It is.
I tend to get frustrated with models.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's funny because they basically take the same amount of patience as painting.
Yeah.
But it's different.
It is.
And like, I don't know. The glue strings, you know.
Oh,
and
yeah,
it's-
no.
Well, weirdly, from all my experience of glue models, I was the least frustrated, and it was the most instant reward from doing a Gundam kit.
Okay.
Because they're all push fit.
They're all push fit.
Right.
I only glued one bit because I broke the thing, but I didn't need to glue it because all the fittings around it clipped in place anyway. But it was just, it seemed a lot. When I first opened the box, it seemed super daunting because there was like 12 sprues of various colors. I'm like, what?
I haven't gone up to like one of the fancy
my
kits
God.
yet. I've
But
only been doing
I'm
it.
less worried about them now because I
Yeah.
just know that I'll just like clip some bits off because it tells you like you're doing the head. Clip these bits off there. Clip these bits off there. Clip, 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 clip. Oh, that's the head done. Oh, that's the exoskeleton done.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the armor done. Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was quick and enjoyable. So yeah, I find them the least stressful kits. Weirdly, even though they look quite daunting at first.
Are you going to do a video on it?
I want to do my waifu.
What's your video? Oh, the waifu.
The waifu.
Waifu.
Oh,
Keep saying
yeah, you're
waifu.
doing Mecha Waifu.
You're doing
Mecha
Waifu Gundam.
I am
Peachy's
waifu.
Mecha Waifu
Title of
Gundam.
one of our podcasts, unfortunately.
Mecha Waifu Gundam.
So someone did tell me it's not
waifu?
actually a waifu. It's something else.
Who's waifu?
Well,
What is waifu?
anything can be a
Oh, well,
waifu.
okay.
Yeah.
I know not
So it
this
looks,
term.
like, it looks like the southern lad doesn't know about weeb culture.
Oh,
All right, so a waifu is...
Oh,
You've got like
Yeah,
small
a
kids
little
nippers,
nipper,
don't
yeah.
you?
I don't
wee
know.
little nipper.
Something about it. Maybe it's like the word nipple.
No.
I don't like
I mean,
it.
we called the channel Juggz,
We
Louise.
did. Here I am being all on
They
my
got a
high
point.
nippleless horse.
I got a point there.
Yeah, there's weird shared language. So like you don't really, and I've said this before, but you don't really like, a lot of people don't paint Gundam. They just build it.
That's the first thing you did, though, right? You built one, then
Yeah.
you immediately painted one.
And then I immediately painted one because I didn't understand. So now I'm going to go back to building it. I've kind of gone the wrong way because in my video, I want to be like, how to get into the Gundam hobby in 7 days. And it's going to be like, watch the anime. I think it's a fun thing.
That's a great
That's why I'm
idea.
asking what you're doing. Let's both do it. Exactly the same
let's
title.
both watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you watch the anime, you kind of Google some stuff, you follow some influencers, content creators, you go out shopping, and then you like do it. And then you clean your desk as well. That was a whole day for me. But and it's
Look great.
thank you. It does look really good. It does look really good. But yeah, I felt like I'd finished it. I'd finished building my first Gundam, and I was kind of like, now what? Because I'm a Warhammer person, and when I build something, that's like
Time to
kind
play.
of like negative
time to-
one. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the first step. So I built another one, and I was like, I gotta paint it. I gotta paint it. So
Yeah,
I
I
painted
can't really
it.
understand miniatures for display. Like, I can, like...
I love it. It's the only reason I paint, right? Is
Yeah.
for display miniatures these days.
No, but I can
um,
understand showing people, because you're still painting to show, right?
that's a miniature
Like,
for display.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I more mean, like, you know, like...
Just put it on your shelf.
Yeah,
and
like,
leave
you
it
know,
there.
like there's loads... Like, I
Oh,
mean,
do
I
you mean
love
the fact
Final
that there's
Fantasy...
not a Gundam game?
Yeah, like I love Final Fantasy 7. Like I would like definitely get like, I don't know, like a cloud fig.
He's
you
your
know, a big
husbando.
thing. Yeah, he's a husbando. But I'd like, and I'd have that. But like, I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would do that though. I like Cloud. I think it's cool. I don't know if I would have like.
Yeah, but I'm like a toy collector as well, so I'm already there.
Yeah,
I'm
that's your thing.
pre-primed for every single hobby in the world because it's
yeah,
great. I love
and you're a
it.
toy collector as well, Peach, right?
Very
Lego and
much so.
stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So we're already like, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
chill.
not really my bag. Like mine's for purpose versus for display.
For lookies, for little
Yeah, for
trinkets,
lookies.
for lookies. But yeah, so I painted one, and now I've got that out my system. So now I'm gonna do what other Gundam people do, which is they build a fancy one, and then they panel line it and do some very light weathering and decals. So there is like a middle ground, but I did it in the wrong order. I wanted to do it like normal straight out the box, middle ground, normal, and then straight out like
Middle
do
ground.
a little bit middly ground, and then paint it. But I accidentally
We should totally both do,
Yeah.
because I will do a Gundam video. We should enter that Golden Gundam
Oh my
competition.
god, let's do it! Yes,
get to go to Japan.
Let's go to Japan.
Yeah,
I want
because
to
that's
go
one of the.
to
You got the
Japan
budget
with
for
my
that, right?
Gundams.
Yeah, I mean, if you help support some jokes.
if you win the UK,
Right,
you get a
you get to
ticket.
go.
They
Yeah.
pay for you to go. It's amazing.
Yeah. So me,
But
That's
me-
we're gonna
worth
have
a
to
shot.
fight.
Oh no!
Yeah, that's
no,
worth a
'cause
shot.
Can we do a collaboration and then we both go?
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh my
I
god! Oh
don't
my god! Oh
know.
my god! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Okay.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Let's do it. But yeah, I'm totally down for like even just doing that as a video, just to turn up and be like, what is this?
Yeah.
Because I don't understand it. I've been like on Gundam TikTok and Instagram and all that, trying to like be in that like kind of like sphere. And I think I like it. It's very different, but also a little bit similar. It's like dreaming about Warhammer, but everything's fancy.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. Clean Warhammer.
Yeah. Because there's almost a shared language. But then you'll see something that's just like really weird, like a nail file which costs £30, and you'll be like, "What is this?"
I mean, sounds like a Games Workshop product.
Anyway.
Does it scrape mold lines too?
So I've just been really enjoying like trying a new hobby and not being great at it.
Yeah,
it's nice learning how to do something better.
Yeah, learning how to do something.
It's tough
new.
not being great at things.
Oh,
yeah,
I hate
it's hard,
it.
right?
I hate being, and this is why I think it's taken me so long to start it. Is because I'm like, it's been years since I've had a new hobby which I'm not instantly good at, and I've had to learn things and say nippers.
Yeah, it's really frustrating.
Yeah.
You could just like leave workshop and edit a video and make it really good.
I've edited videos for a long time. I have too many hobbies.
I hate you.
I have so many hobbies.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Rob.
Oh,
Robert.
It's turned on me. This
George,
is the tough part.
Symes.
George Simmons.
Okay, there's no
Lay it
need
on us.
every time.
Bobby G.
Oh, question: did you get your mug back?
No, it's been stolen by Annie from Bad Squiddo.
Because
Thanks,
Tina
Annie.
stole it to start off with, right?
Yes. I have a mug. I often say it's quite hard to be a man in the hobby, as I'm sure you can.
Agree with
Yeah, he agrees. He agrees. And then someone very kindly made me a mug, and then various.
It's been stolen by all the women in the hobby.
Yeah, all the women in the hobby have then stolen my mug,
Which is why it's hard to be a man in the hobby.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
women keep stealing your mugs.
So Tina stole it, and now Annie has stole it, and
I might steal it at some point.
Yes. So,
If there's a woman in the hobby, please say in the comment section if you would like to be sent the mug. We will send it to you, and
Send
then
photos of it.
you take a photo of
on
it.
tour.
It is, and then
Going across-
it's like
is
the
it
sisterhood
that
of the
great of a
traveling
mug?
underwear.
it's a fine
Is it a
mug.
jug on tour?
It's oh my god, it's a jug on tour. Wow. What have I been doing the past week? So there's been lots of stuff in the venue. So I run a venue as well. So we've just had aircon put in and some other bits, and then I've been trying to do a big sort of like the various stuff that companies keep sending Louise. Please stop.
Thank you. Thank you for it.
But apart from that, obviously, it's been all of the rules for Age of Sigmar 4 has come out, and that is 25 different army rules. I think there's something like 1,200 units to review.
Oh my days!
So Rob's been doing
Number
every single
849.
one.
Let's
How
go.
far through are you? Are you on like 12 of 25?
I think I've reviewed 12 or 13 different factions in full now.
That is impressive.
And the way I do it, the way I review stuff, I quite like. Like obviously, it's the way I do it. Like I'm not saying it's the perfect way. But what I do is I live stream, and then various like people, like fans who are fans of the army as well as like my regular Twitch community. We all like kind of go through it together, and then we make some jokes at the same time. Like, you know, we try to have some real fun with it, and at the same time we kind of like, you know, the most obvious thing to do all the time, which relates to what happened at the weekend, is you're like, this is fun. What happens if I have only this? That's an immediate response, like this, or it's all this.
Yeah.
Which will tie into my
Just
next point in a
berries.
moment. So we've been doing those, and then I'll then just kind of record my YouTube video at that moment, just while I'm live, and then I'll stop the recording, and then
Efficient.
I'll just move on to the next bit. So like I'll review a unit, then we'll record it. So we put like 20, like I say, like I've still got a few more to go, which is a lot. But one of the things that I like to do for a game system is have pretty good system mastery. So I did pretty much the same thing for Old World when Old World came out. And there's still, I know probably some people at home being like, that sounds boring. But actually it's really exciting because when you do find, I think that I like to hope that there's some sort of relationship between the rules writer and me as the person who's taking that on. When they're creating a rule to do something, I'm like, oh, that's fun. I like that. Like, I like what that does.
Yeah.
Like, and you can see the intent behind it in a lot of ways.
It's good to give every single army.
Well, you would hope that there's some intent.
Yes.
Like,
Although occasionally people are like, what was your intent for this rule? And I'm like, I wrote that 3 years ago. I have no idea.
Why did you do this?
do you wonder, like, have you ever thought about attaching, like, I'd like this to do this?
Like designer commentary.
Yeah, a little bit.
Occasionally I've put in like where I think I just can't find the right words to write it as a technical rule.
Yeah.
I've occasionally inserted a comment to just say like,
That's cool.
this is what I'm trying to do here. Like,
So as a absorber of the rule and to the writer
Rule
of the rule,
sponge.
like, I need you to know that like I never read something and I think, what is this person thinking? What I often is like think is, I'd love you to tell me if that's how you felt, or like that's what you're trying to do. Like I think there's a
like
real
the same
elegant like I think when someone writes a rule and I get to read it and it's clearly trying to do something, I think it's really fun. I know it's super lame. Like I'm not into painting. Like I'm not into painting, like, and I'm not into like others, like some other bits in the hobby that people do. But I do like it when there's a rule that lets me either express myself or expresses the thing that I love. Like a unit does a cool thing that I love, and then you've written a rule to do a cool thing that I like. I love that. Like, and you can't ever give me enough information about that. Like for me, obviously some people are like, oh, I'd like it to be really broad. I'm not talking about specifics. I'm just being like, oh, this is a fun thing. Because it's super jazzy. Sorry if I'm going on about that. But,
Super jazzy.
but anyway, so yeah, I've been doing that. So that takes a huge amount of time.
It does.
And then I would like to know, because what I do mainly, so Monday I do a show every Monday where we look at events that have happened over the weekend. And then I review the players and the armies that have done really well. I've always done a good job of reviewing the armies because they're all up on websites and you can review them. But what I started to do was I started to interview people. So I ran an event at the weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Well, Rebecca did. Shout out to Rebecca. So Rebecca ran an event the weekend for me because I played. And then my friend Mike, so he's out in Georgia. So my friend Mike won an event, and then Georgia. And then he just sent me like a 2-minute video on WhatsApp. He's like, I played this, I did this, and I like inserted it into the video.
That's cool.
Because one of the things that I do when I do the Monday show normally, so like they'll be like, there's an event in Washington. So then it's included in the website is like a link to where it is. So normally we'll click it, Google Maps it, and we'll start looking around. And so I know like if you're playing in like Grognard Games, then next to that there's an amazing restaurant called Uncle Bill's. You can go and eat at Bill's Diner. And then like there's a kebab shop down the road. I know like if you're playing in the Philippines, there's a Jollibee's around the corner where everyone has lunch.
There's always
right?
a Jollibee's.
So even though I've never been to the Philippines, I feel like really connected with the community there. And so now I've started to ask people if they could send me photos and videos of the event, especially interviews, so I can integrate that into the video. So I did the first one on Monday, and that was really, people were super stoked about that. There were more views on that than there were on reviewing the army.
This is why I think it's good that you do every army, because there's a community for every single army which will value what you do, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So it's not just like, oh, let's pick the biggest, most smashiest ones. It's good to do every single one.
Also, a lot of people put the effort into like, because I don't really do reviews, I do guides. So there's not a lot of people who put the effort in because it's a lot of effort.
Yeah, it is. It's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot of effort, and I think it's really important because people are like, I didn't know that thing did that. Thank you. That's nice.
Yeah,
and I'm like, that's fine.
You're doing a great service for the people.
Oh,
Rob.
wow. Anyway, so I enjoyed that. I did that on Monday, and then I also played at the weekend. So I had the first Age of Sigmar 4 event that we've had this weekend, and I played in it because you don't play Total War, but you do.
Yeah.
And you've heard of the term Doom Stacks.
Yes, I've done it. I didn't know it had a name.
Yes,
Right.
It's just where you take. So in Total War, you always have to have a hero, and then you're allowed to have like whatever units you want in that thing. It's just cost gold. But what if you just take one of the same thing, all of it up to 20? Because it's a capped at 20, and this is a really big thing that happens in the Total War YouTube community. So I was like, okay, cool, because I've always run events or live streamed events, and I've just not been able to play for years, really. So I was like, I'm just going to start playing. So I got Rebecca to run the event this weekend, and then she's booked in now to run the next 3 events. And then I'm playing in every single event. So I've got like 4 events I'm playing the next 2 months. And I did like my first Doom stack. So it was 4 Bloodthirsters.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
That's, what else? It was 4 Bloodthirsters.
And 1 priest.
1 priest.
Yeah,
was that it?
That was it.
Get him, boys.
Yeah.
Is it like you can bring anything now?
You can basically bring anything, which
So
I
this
know
is
like
interesting.
some people don't love that it doesn't look like an army, but I
Yeah.
have said that it's no longer an army game.
Yeah.
It's a board game with extra steps.
Okay.
And so yeah, I ran my first Doom stack, and I recorded all my games. There was a couple of technical issues. Juggz fans will obviously be aware of that because I'm rubbish at doing the jokes. But then a couple of technical issues. But I'm playing again next weekend. And then I'm running an Old World event this weekend. But I'm playing again next weekend, and I'm going to run all things with wings. So I'm running all prosecutors from
Things with
Stormcast. This lady called Yanastra.
I like that you're like flying sucks in games, and Rob's like,
I
wow.
know.
What if I just have
Ruined
wing?
every
Get
scenario.
ready for this.
Yeah, so that's quite fun. And I think, like, and I've got a bunch of ideas. Me and Peachy have talked about big pigs.
Big pigs.
Big pigs.
I love the big pig one.
Yeah, so there's a big pig that you can have
Right.
for the Ironjaw's army, and you can now just run 7 of them.
7 big pigs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
yeah. Like,
squinkins.
is it good? Well,
Probably
that's,
not.
That's the kind of fun part. I get to. I think I'm an okay player of games, and then I get to put them in the crucible of an event, and then stress test the concept while also trying to do something fun and outrageous. And so I'm really excited about it. And the Bloodthirster thing was fun. I played my friend Martin
Yeah, how
game
was
1,
it?
and I was just like, "What's my demon name?" And he was like, "Stop saying that. Like, this is weird."
What was your demon name?
I don't know. I was
Oh,
just,
well.
Can't reveal your true name.
Yeah, you can't. Come on.
"What's my demon name?" But
Well,
like the
he-
game
He's
is
not falling for that.
Yeah, he wasn't. No. But the game had just come out, so there was like quite a few rules mistakes for like various different people. Thankfully, I just took the same unit 4 times, so like I wasn't
Yeah, easy to learn, right?
Yeah, it was pretty easy to learn. I mean, I still was making a lot of like positional
Practically
mistakes.
a Gargant
I,
player.
I like that.
How dare
the
you.
rule just came out, so there were loads of mistakes.
Yeah.
My game comes out and it's in a book. What are you going to do? There's loads of mistakes. There's loads of mistakes.
No, there weren't loads of mistakes for the rules, as in the
okay.
players were making lots of
Oh, all right,
mistakes.
okay.
Yeah, they were making lots of mistakes, which is super okay. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's new, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
So-
it's brand new.
Everyone's
like-
working it out.
And while it was like a tournament, like, I did a briefing at the start. I was like, look, none of us know. Everyone go learn. And I think I've developed a really nice community of people who do attend events here. We do kids play for free, and like people travel, and then they know, they're like, I made mistakes. I'm like, that's okay. That's fine. My friend Tom, shout out to Tom, who replayed game 2. He made a massive mistake with one of his rules, which I then helped him with. I was like, oh no, you can do this other thing as well. He's like, oh my God, that's great. Both of us were wrong. Yeah, and then like I found out the next day, and I was screaming. I was like, Tom, I think you're a cheater and a vegetarian. I'm a vegetarian.
You're also
I was
a
like,
vegetarian.
Yeah, I know. That's the joke. I was like, and he came around the corner. He was like, how dare you call me a vegetarian? Yeah. He messaged me yesterday. He's like, I've been cheating furiously all week. And I was like, this is great. That is in accidentally, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah. New
So it was a really good time. So I'm really looking forward to that. So I've got a bunch of doom stacks I'm trying to work on in the future. But
It's
I'm
nice
also,
to see you playing games again, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest.
I'm incredibly enthused
Yeah.
about my hobby.
It's
Like,
so cute. It's really nice to see you.
yeah, it's so fun. I'm writing lists late at
You have
night.
bought
I'm
a
like,
lot of
I'm-
miniatures.
I'm talking to all the people in my community about the stuff I want to run. So it's super exciting. It must be exactly like you, Peach, when you've like been like reading these rules and all those ideas are exploding.
Yeah.
But for me, the boundaries are much narrower.
Yeah.
I'm just playing this game system, and I'm so excited about all the things I can do inside this, which is why I quite like the borders. Because there's some mistakes. They shouldn't let me do that.
Yeah.
Like the things I'm going to do over the next few months are atrocious. I'm going to do some really horrible stuff. It's going to be very funny. Yeah, like
Yeah, fuck it. Have fun.
yeah, like I think I can make games fairly engaging. So that's what I like to do. And I had a great weekend, and then hopefully people enjoy playing me. But I think also there'll be really fun YouTube videos. So I've not done this yet. It's a huge amount of footage. So hopefully tonight I'm going to start looking at it, and I want to chop it down and be like, what? 'Cause like I don't know what that video looks like yet. Does that
Do
make
a
sense?
tabletop
Yeah.
in 10 minutes.
Yeah, I definitely could do one of those, but I want this to be slightly different because I almost want to like red arrow, like face, like you ran 4 bloodthirsters ? It's a bit silly. That's the concept, which is
We
exactly
love
what.
a red arrow in
Yeah,
this
yeah.
family.
Do you know what I mean? Like the idea is for it to be evocative, and then for people to engage with the concept because it's fun.
Yeah, I want to see what it's like. And they did that. They did that, I think, in a battle report recently where they were just like, let's just get the 2 biggest miniatures and make them fight.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And that's kind of cool.
Makes
like,
sense.
people love that.
Yeah, people love that.
Yeah,
They
for
absolutely
sure.
love that. And I think
I
that's,
want to see
boss
what it's
fight.
like.
I
I
think
think
that's
it
a
was
fun
like
concept.
a bloodthirster and like something else or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just cool.
Yeah, I also, Joe, you might not know this, but I famously hate giants.
Okay.
I hate giants. I think they're terrible, right? And so I want to teach it this.
Sculpting or play or just
Play.
everything?
No, just them in. I don't like god models or
So you took
gargants.
4 bloodthirsters.
Yes. Well, they're demons.
They're
Oh,
demons.
God.
They're supposed
Demons-
to be big,
Absolutely
They're
unlike
supposed to be
giants,
big, yeah.
wrecked,
which are
Rob.
Yeah,
giant.
it's okay. I
It's
understand
another
the
word for
criticism.
big.
But there's the Cruel Boys have got like this little bolt thrower. Which does like extra damage against monsters.
Aim for the eye.
Yeah. So, and I'm like, why don't I just take 16? And people are like, you can't do that. It's a terrible army. And it is, unless I wear a t-shirt that just says, I hate giants or gargants. And then I just kill, like, there's two people I've messaged for that event where I want to run it who are both Gargant players. I've been like, hey, do you want to come to my event? Free ticket. And they're like, that's nice of you. They don't know what I'm planning. And I won't make it so that I intentionally play them. If the draw happens, if the dice happens and we're played against each other,
just invite only Gargant players. Just
honestly,
literally.
and me.
Yeah, just and then they all turn up like, what the fuck? And then you're there in your shirt just like, hello, bitches.
I just Rorschach them. Like, I'm not trapped in here with you.
Yeah, you're trapped in here with me.
That's what I've been up to anyway. And I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah. But you've been working on, we didn't start on this.
Yes.
Joe, you've been working on.
No, I'm done with that now.
Oh, no.
Please
Please
tell us.
something else.
Yeah.
Please tell us.
Okay.
What
is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
What is this?
What is that?
What is this?
Death Ship
Very
1.
stylized as well. I like the
Yeah,
cover.
so, what it was originally was...
Hold on, are they samurais?
Yeah,
That-
samurai,
I'm in.
a red coat and a colonial marine trooper.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to just be the book now. I don't know.
You just move it closer. Move it closer to the.
So
to
it
the,
was originally a magazine
that's the
article
camera. Move it closer
I
to the
wrote.
camera.
Oh,
So
okay.
for a while, magazine. Well, I used to do this gaming anthology called Blaster with some other game designers. It was this idea like we're gonna do kind of our own magazine anthology and put it out. And it lasted 4 issues because it's really hard to get 5 creative people to do things together. But it was great while we did it. And one of the ones I did was this little game called Death Ship 1. And then I've now expanded it and then put it out on its own. And it was basically, I had this idea like I want to see if I can write a miniatures game in which you can literally use any miniatures you want from so it's a solo game or cooperative, and you have a squad of soldiers. But these soldiers can literally be from anytime, anywhere. So you can have your Assyrians.
Nice aliens reference there. I like that.
Or you can take your Space Marines, and it's basically broken down. Are you like low tech, middle tech, or high tech? You pick one of those, but within that, you can be whatever you want. So you can have samurai and medieval knights and such working together, or you can just be pure samurai.
Yeah, there you go.
And then I wanted to make almost a minimalist war game. So you have that squad. There's 4 types of aliens that you might encounter, and there are walls. And it's basically, it could be played 2-dimensionally. There is no real third dimension. So that either a wall's in your way or it's not. But these walls tend to move around and stuff. And the premise is basically you have this squad of soldiers. You've been taken and thrown on an alien death ship, and you've got to see if you can get to the other side.
Okay.
There's basically 5 rooms. You roll randomly to see which room you get next. If a guy gets killed in room 1, he's not in room 2. So you see if you have anybody left by the end. And the theory is that you probably won't. It's actually a war game designed for you to lose.
Yeah.
It's not impossible to win, but
That's what it
it's
says
hard.
on the back.
Yes.
Yeah. I read the blurb. I really like it.
I wanted to put that really up front so that people don't get disappointed when they're just getting slaughtered, because you're kind of supposed to get slaughtered. It's an alien death trap.
The second line says, because the truth is you probably won't live long.
Well, yeah, I played a card game called The Grizzled. If you've ever played it,
Never heard of it.
It's just World War I little resource. It's just cards. It's incredibly simple, and it had not Castle we went to, but the Castle the year before. Me and my friends played for like 6 hours.
What?
Never beat it like ever. It's built to make you lose constantly.
Arkham Horror feels like that a lot of the time.
Yeah, and we were just so annoyed, and then therefore we just played it forever. And then when my friend finally did it, he's based in the US, and he just got this voice note. He was like, "We did it!" I was like, "There's no reward. It's just a card," but it was great. It was good.
It's probably not quite that hard.
You get a lot of games like permadeath games, so you play through until you die, and then you start again and see how far you get until you
cool.
die.
There's a
and
big
start
thing in video
again.
games as well.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, because Dark Souls does that, doesn't it? Where you
I was about to
get
say Dark
better
Souls.
after you've died. To
Yeah,
then
they put an honor mode in Baldur's Gate as well. So the same,
What's an honor mode?
so the same thing, where basically
Oh, you go back to the...
You
Go
just
back to
die.
the start.
Yeah.
You died.
yeah, you just die.
I love Dark Souls for that, because you get so intimately familiar with every single element of the game that when you go back to play it again, it feels really nostalgic because you just know everything in a way that maybe you don't with other games. And I really like Dark Souls.
because they're hard.
Yeah, because you're like, I know exactly where this skeleton's going to be to shoot it off the bridge within the first 3 seconds. I love it. I want to play Dark Souls again.
Was there intent to have the game be hard, or was that like
Yeah.
an acted...
It was designed that way from the beginning.
Okay, interesting.
I mean, I guess so I'm a huge believer in miniatures don't need to be tied to games.
Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Because I've never thought of them that way. I've always thought
Do you
these
mean
are the
specific miniatures for specific games?
meaning I have these miniatures. I've collected these miniatures because I thought they were cool.
Yeah.
Now what can I do with them?
Yeah.
That's me.
They go on different
And
journeys.
that's me.
Yeah. So this game is designed so that like I have miniatures. Here's something you can do with those miniatures.
Yeah.
And
See, I'm thinking now for a couple of videos that Sharp and his chosen men get thrown into a room with some, because I'm gonna follow the rule where it says mixed squads, so you can do what you want. I might have a samurai there. I'm actually working on another video with Eldritch Foundry, and I'm going to make you and me, and I'm going to put you into my war games. And this might be the first one we go into and see how long.
Oh, you're going to get killed horribly.
Can you mix them up? Can you have like a low tech guy and a high tech guy and
there
stuff
aren't
like that?
specific rules for that, but you can, and you can certainly mix like, because like middle tech is basically anyone that has a gun, essentially. So you can have your Yankee sharpshooter and your
GI from World War II.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you can mix them that way. You can mix low tech and high tech a little bit, but
Interesting.
the balance gets slightly off. But since you're supposed to die anyway, that's not a huge concern.
Yeah.
And it's like a super like digestible little number. a little. You've got one too. It's over there.
I know.
And we got to get you to sign them as well.
Okay.
I will
Yes, by the way, everybody.
But this is a brand. This is a project that's just come out.
Yeah. So it's it came out last month. I think it's on Drive-Thru RPG, so you can get it as a PDF, or you can get it as print on demand, which those are.
And therefore, does that mean you're working on other? Obviously, I know you're not going to be able to talk about them, but you're working on other projects. Like game design and still creating games is something that you're like still very much like this is what I'm doing for my future.
I'm still.
Is there anything you can talk about now that's coming up? Exciting. No is a viable answer.
Yeah, no is a very viable answer.
I can't say specifically because I'm not allowed, but I can say. So I'm working on another Silver Bayonet book.
There you go. No, that's already exciting.
Because I realized like I've never done a kind of grand narrative in Silver Bayonet. It tends to be very kind of short, punchy missions. And I don't know if you guys are acquainted with Robin of Sherwood, the old television show.
Yes.
If you haven't, you should absolutely watch it.
The one with the
I know of it.
theme tune. Yeah,
Robin the Hooded Man. And so there's one like two-parter in there called The Seven Swords of Wayland, where like these evil witches are trying to bring together these 7 swords and cast some horrible spell or something like that. And it's kind of wasted because Robin Hood has one of these swords, so that's the only one that actually becomes relevant in the story. But I thought that is such a cool idea. So I kind of wanted to use that idea. It's not swords we're chasing after here, but this kind of idea that there were these things that were all together and now they've been thrown apart. So the Silver Bayonet units are going out and trying to get these pieces and beat each other to these pieces and then bring it together for some cataclysmic showdown.
Yeah, cool.
So. Is there a like I've got another idea after that, I've got another idea after that, or is it very much like you do a project when you feel like that's when you want to do a project? What's your process?
It depends. So Silver Bayonet, Frostgrave, they're all done through Osprey, and so I have to sign contracts, and usually that's I've then got a year to turn in the book. So then that does become these fixed points. But I try to make sure there's enough space in there that I can do my own other stuff as well. So Rangers of Shadow Deep, which we mentioned, was something I self-published originally.
Is that why that's through Modiphius?
It's now published through Modiphius just because he basically just really wanted to publish it and kept annoying me. And I just kept saying no because I don't need to. I'm like, nah. And then he's like, well, we can turn it into this really beautiful book. And I'm like, I like really beautiful books.
It's a very beautiful book.
Okay. Yeah. So he broke me. But I still do self-publish kind of new adventures on my own.
Yeah.
Through Drive-Thru and stuff like that. And I try to. I've now reached a point where I've got enough different games that it's hard to kind of keep up with them all. I was about to say,
it must be hard to juggle them all.
It is.
Yeah.
And but it also means that it's like, okay, I don't have anything to say about this right now. I'm going to go away and work on this game for a while.
I've got a question to throw at you.
Yeah.
Don't want to put it on the spot. You don't have to answer it. So Silver Bayonet, you've done a bunch of add-ons. So you've got Italy, you've got the Carpathians. But you
I didn't write Italy, but...
You didn't?
I did not write...
I meant to say Egypt. You've done Egypt.
I did
You've
Egypt.
done Carpathians, which is going to be my point, which is Italy and Canada were written by other people. So you've created this book, this love, this passion. You've made these add-ons, but then other people have taken your things and published them.
How do you feel about that? Because I'm having a similar thing right now with Rascal Town. where we have a sculptor, Tom, who is a big fan of your work. And
in lockdown did an entire 9-tile piece, a board that's just incredible, and then they all rotate, all for Frostgrave.
I'm going to tell him to send a picture of it so we can show you.
Yeah, which she's played one game on.
Anyway,
That's how it always is.
so I've developed this miniature line called Rascal Town. It's all based on sketches that I've done, and I love it, and it's my baby. But Tom is so good now that he could just sculpt a miniature by himself without me doing any artistic direction.
Because he's got the vibe.
Yeah, he's just really good at it. He's done an art test where he drew one, and I'm like, this is perfect. And I feel weird about letting it go to another person, even though he's really good at it. So same thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, Silver Bayonet's kind of a special case because of all my games, well, it and Oathmark were written as an employee of Osprey.
Yeah.
So technically it's owned by them, and I don't necessarily have a say. Now, I have a great relationship with Osprey, and they actually said they weren't going to let other people write for it.
Yeah.
But I said, like, I am not going to be able to support this game to the level I have my others. I just don't have the time.
That makes sense.
Why don't you let some other people do it? But that was hard. But I more have that question with Rangers of Shadow Deep because I feel like I've reached a point where I can't quite support it as much as the fans would like it supported.
Yeah.
Because some people want to go really deep, don't they?
Yeah, they do.
They want to be like, I want to know every element. I want to go all the way deep.
Well, and Rangers has it's because it's solo and it's narrative driven. Like you play scenarios and you can replay them to some extent, but there is you tend to play them once with your warband.
Yeah.
So for the people who are hardcore and have played it all, they want more. But my advice would be don't let them. What? Let me rephrase
I'm so
that.
Tired, Joe. I'm so done.
What I would say is, why don't you think about creating a sub area in which he can play? So you've got Rascal Town.
Yeah.
Is there the basement of Rascal Town or
Rascalville?
I see.
Can he be the underwater
like
rascals or something like that?
Yeah.
So that he
can go crazy. On the side. Yeah. Because like. For me, I have been I'm used to being so involved. Similarly to you, I had so many jobs at Games Workshop because I used to do the book layout and I used to do the illustration and I used to do the box packaging and I was so involved with all of these creative processes along the way that now I feel the need to do them all.
Yeah.
I feel the need to, because I'm a bit of a control freak as well. But he's good. But I thought you'd be sassy about that. But
I know who you are.
I'm a bit of a control freak, so I feel the need to be like, I'll design the miniature. The only thing I can't do is sculpt.
All right.
So I'm like, I'll design the miniature.
The only thing you can't do yet.
I'll do the painting. I'll do the photography. I'll do the box art. I'll do the illustration. But then if we make a game out of it, I'll want to do all of the illustrations for the book. I'll want to write it. I'll want to do the background. And it's so much for one person.
I've got a suggestion for you.
It's not shut up if you tell me to move my hands faster.
It's not going to be to move your hand faster.
Yeah.
Why don't you just put it through an AI generator?
Peachy! Getting cancelled on your birthday!
Obviously, that was a joke.
And
Peachy will no longer be on the show.
I'm not affiliated
Tell
with the
them it was
Juggz or
a
any
joke.
independent stated here.
Peachy!
It was a joke.
It was a joke.
Can you like move your so we can like dub it over and make it?
It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke. It wasn't a joke.
So I do know of one other person that has done that.
Yeah.
So one of my fellow Blaster guys wrote a game called Relic Blade.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
we love Relic
So yeah,
Blade.
Sean, wrote it.
I have some of the
He
little
illustrated
prawns,
it.
yeah.
He sculpted all the models. He cast the models. He literally did everything for it. And
I would love if I mean I don't know because Tom's so good. Like we're doing a new Rascal right now, and like I did a very very basic sketch because I just didn't have time to do the full rendered like illustration with side profiles.
It was a resketch, right?
Yeah, it was a resketch. Yeah, so I guess we've had a bit of practice.
Yeah, this is the iteration on the first one.
It is. It's interesting. But yeah, he's just sent me the miniature back, and I'm like, oh, it's perfect. Like, I think I would always want Tom to do it, even if I could.
He's just a part of the family, right?
Yeah, he's great. He is a big part of Rascal Town.
I think that you must have that same relationship with Osprey, right? You worked there so long.
Yeah.
No matter what happens, you've actually got a personal relationship with them. Yeah.
or a better example. So Death Ship won all the arts by a guy named Barrett Stanley, who also did all the art to Rangers of Shadow Deep. And he was a high school friend of mine. And in that case, like I know he's just so much better of an artist, not only than I am, but thinks in terms I don't think.
It's so annoying, isn't it?
So I just go like, how about a ranger jumping, across a chasm? And that's literally the art brief I give him. And he comes back with something really cool and amazing.
I had this with Tom as well. I gave him a brief for like, we're doing a space marine that there's never been a miniature of. They're called the Dark Krakens, and they're underwater space marines, and they fight underwater. And I was like, that's your brief. Here's a couple of white dwarves in background. And he just makes the most incredible miniature I've ever seen in my life. Like, I would never have been able to concept that as well as Tom has, and then he sculpted it too.
Smart.
So I do think
so smart.
There's a difference between taking on a partner in that sense than like where Silver Bayonet's more kind of, let's open this up to other people.
Yeah.
So like the guy who wrote Italy, like when they hired him to do it, I didn't know him.
Yeah.
So
How
like,
was that hard? Because I find it hard.
I mean, and it is hard because so him and Ash Barker I did know who wrote Canada, but I read the manuscripts and I go, I wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
That's not to say it's bad or good, but I wouldn't have done that.
I had the same thing when I was an army painter. I had very clear ways I'd paint the armies and how I'd envision them. And then I became the army painter manager. And the other guys, I had to leave the other guys to make those decisions. And I'll be there sitting going, it's not the way I'd do it. It's not the way I'd do it. But then I had to do that.
Yeah.
I had to come up with my own ideas at one point, and seeing them go on that same journey I went on was quite good for them and also useful for me to learn to step back as well. But
I need to learn how to
when
do
you've got a
that.
baby and
Well, but I mean, and that's it. I mean,
precious of it.
I thought you meant Charlie.
you don't necessarily need to learn to step back if you're giving up. Don't give up something you want to do.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
if that's your favorite part of it,
It is.
then hold on to that.
Yeah, okay,
as
that's
long as
good
you can,
advice. Okay, then I will.
When are we
I
getting a
will.
rifleman rascal for Rascal Town?
You can convert one if
I
you
can
like.
dream. Oh, go on, an AI generator.
No,
Peachy, stop saying this.
Stop it.
Peachy.
Why are you doing this?
It's his birthday.
Yeah,
He's allowed
get
to
away
say
with
what
it.
he
And I've
likes.
got AI Tourette's.
What do you mean AI?
I don't know.
He's had too much birthday cake.
I also want to say, so like at Salute this year,
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna go check out the Rascal Town miniatures. I couldn't get to the table.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
They were like, it was like 15 people deep. I was just
Sorry.
like, I kind of see a pirate hat
I
bobbing
didn't
around
even know
there.
that was me.
But
I didn't know you were there.
Yeah, I was there.
We said hello to him. And
Yeah,
we
by
were
the way-
polite. We were nice and polite. I just forgot.
you actually met me like 3 years ago at Salute.
at Salute, yeah.
You had just done both the, I don't know if you
Was it
both done
panel?
the panel or,
Yeah.
but it was at the panel
Joe,
thing.
can I be clear that this is the first time we've met?
Yes, we've never met before, as far as I know. These people, they ghosted me, man.
I'm
They
not
ghosted
rude.
me.
I'm not rude to the creator of Frostgrave. I'm lovely. Right? And on that bombshell, we're going to
But
end
I
the show.
mean, now I realize, like, you guys just came out of Games Workshop. You didn't know who the heck I was, so I introduced myself, and it's like, I'm just another person you've just met. So that's fine.
Wow. Once again, proving Rob's the best.
So,
Get Death Ship 1. I've just realised it's actually
But
your
we do
unknown
shout
known.
outs. We normally at the end of the show, because
Yeah.
we're getting to the stage where this is going to become a monstrous edit for Rob.
all right.
If that's cool. So any shout outs that anyone would like to make, we'll give you a moment for people.
You start.
I'm going to shout out Rebecca because she ran an event for me this weekend so that I could play Warhammer. And that was a big deal to me on a personal level. I feel so enthused about my hobby. So thank you to her, like a personal shout out. She's great.
I've got 2 shout outs. Shout out number 1, Nigel Betts. Thank you for offering to do some voiceovers for me. And shout out to Charlie Peach for doing well in his end of year review. Because he'll probably watch this.
Well done. And then, Joe?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out my wife, Steph, because she only sort of understands what I do, but she's always been encouraging. And like I tell her, I'm going up to Nottingham for the day to talk to some people, and she says, okay, that's fine. Even though I'm leaving her with 2 kids, and it can be hard.
Yeah.
Can I go to a podcast? It's called Juggz.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't actually mention that part. But I mean, like, and a few weeks ago, I was in Poland for 5 days doing a convention there. And again, just like,
That's awesome.
she understands that's part of it. And
All right. Well, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Goodbye.
Bye.